But do you want to tackle this from like the Evil Dead thing, to where, because Sam, you were kind of the antichrist of the Evil Dead streams. Like, do you want to start
Yeah,
off,
that's
Devin, and
true.
we just kind of
The
tell you why you're wrong?
Antichrist. Um. Well, you don't even know what my opinion of these movies is right now.
I don't think it's changed. I don't think it's changed much.
Um. I don't know how to put this because I don't want to upset you guys,
I think you should just throw it out
and I
there.
don't want to give you the fucking satisfaction either. Um.
Oh,
But
okay.
I can no longer say that the Lord of the Rings sucks.
Yeah.
I can just now say that I think some of it is poorly paced.
Okay.
Some
No, I can see
and
that.
and honestly, it might just be because I watched the extended editions.
Yeah,
Um,
100%.
but there was some stuff that I didn't feel was necessary, or could have been handled a little bit differently. But other than that, I
Yep.
mean, I did enjoy the movies. I thought they were good. Honestly, I was confused on like one thing in particular, and then I looked it up afterwards, and I was like, okay, you know what? That makes a lot of sense, and that's pretty fucking cool. So,
Do you want to talk about that now, or
Yeah, Sam,
we'll
what
get to it
part is it?
later?
I'm curious.
so
Is it the Witch King by chance?
no, actually, it was why Frodo left at the very end, and didn't take his boys with him. I was like, that seems
Oh, okay.
kind of messed up, and I don't understand that. But then I looked it up, and everyone's like, well, it's because he's got PTSD, and so
Yeah.
he went all that way to do that mission, and then at the very end, he couldn't even do it. The only reason he did it was because of circumstance and fate didn't let him keep
Yep.
the ring. And I was like, okay, you know what? That's pretty cool. He was like upset with himself and has some PTSD, and so he needed to go move on. And so
Post traumatic shire
I think it was also partially because he was a ring bearer, technically. And so where they're going is called the Undying Lands. It's basically where all like the magical, or I don't know if I would say heavenly
I thought it was just where
powers
the
are.
elves go.
Well, it's like an oasis for the elves to get away from everything. It's kind of like
I'm pretty sure
Canada,
I'm pretty sure all the gods are there too.
but
So
yeah, and it's like
does that mean Frodo's not gonna die now? He's gonna live forever?
no, no, he will die. It's people who die can go to the Undying Lands. Like Gimli ends up going there with Legolas after they get done with their stuff in Middle Earth. But it's just I say it's like a sanctuary.
This is another thing.
You have to be blessed to go there.
So this is kind of irritating then. So they're just kind of giving away free tickets to paradise. Just handing them out at the end there. If you did something cool. But for some reason, what's her name? Aragorn's sweetheart. She had one ship, and if she didn't make it on that one, she couldn't go.
Yeah. Well, she wanted to stay with him anyway.
Pretty sure that also would have applied to anyone else if they said no.
They get one shot to go, and that's it?
Probably, yeah.
It seems like there's a charter going there once a week, so...
Listen, she wasn't going to leave him.
One of my favorite parts throughout the movie is like, there's all this talk about Arwen, she has to go, you know? And the last ship leaves in the third movie. It's like,
yeah, no, it's like, this is like
so
your only
much time.
shot, and you're screwed, and they're like, well, like, we've been holding out on you, really.
That's what I mean. That's there's only the one ship she was able to go on, and then they got like another one the next week, and she couldn't just wait and take that one.
But Devin, she wouldn't have taken it.
I know she wouldn't have. I'm just saying it seemed like they made it seem like it was the only opportunity. Even it's like when you told you better take this flight or you're never going to Florida. It's like, but there's another flight tomorrow.
But why would I want to go to Florida? Don't compare the Undying Lands to Florida. First off, that's a horrible comparison.
Oh man.
That
would be Mordor, right? Like all the crazy shit that goes on there. Mordor would have to be Florida.
So, I did write down though. I did have a list of a few things I had issues with the movies, I should say. The biggest,
that's one movie.
Biggest one for me being is that the characters outside of like a couple weren't all that complex. I mean, there were characters in this movie that were cartoonishly good or evil. Like Grima, that dude looked like a bad guy the second you see him, and he never did.
Well, yeah.
His last name is also...
He's very clearly the bad guy just from a visual perspective, and then he doesn't do anything good in the movie except, you know, take out Saruman, and that was more out of anger, it seemed like. And that was literally all he was. He was just very surface level bad guy. And then you got like Legolas is just like super good elf guy, and there's just like no like gray area with any of these characters outside of Smeagol, Gollum, and even he was like not all that complex.
All two of his personalities.
Yeah, I mean it was like Jekyll and Hyde, but I don't know.
I mean, fair enough. I don't.
And the one thing is, like, I thought for the longest time, I thought Gandalf was like this all-knowing, all-seeing wizard man. And it wasn't until after watching these that I realized, okay, he's a little unsure about things the whole movie, but he still seems to know what's going on. But even he wasn't that complex outside of, being a little doubtful here or there. Like, I just wish there was more moral gray area with some of these characters, because that makes characters more interesting to me. And
no, I get that. And I think a big part of the issue is the books are so heavy with like detail in that sense to where you could not fit all of that into it. And I don't want to compare them to the books too much, but it's trying to translate either a little bit or all of that, because they are completely different. Like it is all about the journey in the books, and I think that's where like the movies do a good job of it. But like you said, yeah, they're definitely a little bit lackluster with the characters because they're very just either good or bad.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I'm sitting over here trying to just think of characters that could be.
Also, while we're on the subject of Legolas, does his like the thing that holds arrows, does it just like magically grow arrows while he's in the middle of battle? That dude never once was like, "Oh, I'm out of arrows," like any real like.
Well, he probably just pulled them from the enemies or like off his dead friends and just like collected arrows again, you know?
I guess.
A lot of elves died in Helm's Deep, man. He probably just had a stockpile of arrows for himself.
And then and this is more just a personal thing, but you know, like with the orcs, they're orcs and they're like kind of they're trashy and violent, and yeah, they like did like maim people, but and I think this goes into more they wanted to make these more of like a family fare, but I wanted more brutality. I wanted to see more like a dude get cut in half. I wanted to see like the violence of sword warfare aside from like most of the deaths in the movie were either shot in the chest with an arrow or just stabbed. You didn't get a whole lot of limbs or anything flying off.
I would say Lurtz got his head cut off.
Yeah, there was the occasional thing, but for the most part, like when the major battles are happening, you're really just seeing dudes stabbing and.
Yeah. Well, they know where to go. They know the easy kills.
I guess, but it's more fun to see like I was thinking during every battle in these movies, and Sam, I don't know if you've seen it. Beck, I know you probably watched it, but Game of Thrones, Battle of the Bastards.
Yeah. Oh.
That battle ruined like anything the Lord of the Rings could have given me. I mean that is like, I'm usually not a fan of this kind of stuff, and I loved Game of Thrones, and that battle in particular is one of the coolest things I've ever seen in a movie or TV show. It was just like so gripping and so brutal, and then it was also so like it felt like all hope was lost at some points, and then other points you're like, yes, kill him. Like there was just so like highs and lows galore in the Battle of Bastards, whereas this all felt like all through the movies, like it felt like nothing was ever gonna go wrong.
Wait, man had his head very casually caved in.
I think.
What's the? Oh, chat. I'm trying to think of what scene that is. Oh, and I just opened up another tab.
All right, Sam. Not Sam? Shane. What scene is that?
We're going through like 15 hours of footage here, like coast side.
The older brother.
Oh, you mean Denethor?
Oh, during Battle of the Bastards.
Oh, I was like, I thought you were talking about when Gandalf smacked Denethor on the head.
I was like trying to remember what in Lord of the Rings. No, yeah, dude. I mean, the brutality in Battle of Bastards, though, there was just so much going on. It's been a minute since I've seen Battle of Bastards, so I don't really remember what he's talking about here either. But that's very much in line with Game of Thrones. I mean, fucking Mandalorian man, Pedro Pascal, he had his like head crushed by the mountain's bare hands.
We need to do Game of Thrones then, like something.
Oh my god, that's I mean, it's if I just wish they hadn't screwed it up in the last 2 seasons, and that show would have.
That comes down to not having the source material.
Yeah,
I really think. I mean, two of the writers from the show know how Martin wants the books to end because he told them, but
I don't think that's a full excuse though, because like HBO offered them as much money and as many episodes as they wanted to make, and they're like, nah, we can get it done in 10 episodes, 2 seasons, 10 episodes apiece. We're good. We don't need any more. And then it's like journeys that would take multiple episodes for a character to make were happening in one scene. Like the character's like, I gotta go here, and then all of a sudden they're there the next scene versus
Sky taxis, man.
versus in the earlier seasons where they'd say we have to go there and then it takes them like 3 or 4 episodes to get there. It just felt like the last 2 seasons felt so rushed. But you still had amazing moments like the Battle of the Bastards, which, like I said, greatest battle, I think, one of the greatest in television or movie history. And Sam, you haven't seen Game of Thrones, right? You need to get on that just for that episode alone. I think you'd be like, okay, this was worth it. I guess you could, but you'd be missing out on a lot of context.
So you don't get the satisfaction of like building up to it and then being like, well, yeah.
And then the payoff
there's no payoff.
Yeah, because there's a character that you're dealing with in this battle. There's like it's the battle between two. It's called the Battle of the Bastards because there's two characters that are basically bastards: Jon Snow and what's his name, Ramsay Bolton.
Yeah, well, he was a Snow.
Okay, that's right.
But yeah, he got Bolton so he could watch over. Was it Winterhold? Winterfell?
Yeah.
Winterhold. That's from Skyrim.
Oh, sorry.
Whatever the Stark's home is, but basically, so you have this one character who's like the whole series. He's like a paragon almost. Like he's the very good. Like he's rough in the mud, but he only does what he thinks is right. And then you have a character that's literally torturing and maiming characters you love like once an episode. Like just a horrible, horrible character. And this is the episode where they finally like kind of put their two armies against each other and see who comes out on top. And it is intensely satisfying to see this battle go down. And you don't get that, I feel like, that satisfaction if you don't have the build up to like understand the complexities. But it is quite a battle. But we're not here to talk about Game of Thrones. I am. But it's just one of those things whenever I think of Lord of the Rings, I unfortunately I think Game of Thrones did it better.
Well, yeah, I mean, I stand by this. I'm going to try not to repeat this throughout the entire stream, but I know I will at least another couple of times. I don't think Lord of the Rings is not about the battles to me. And it's always been, I had a friend send me like this whole like TikTok, whatever it was. And I went on a rant talking about Lord of the Rings. I'm like, it is a long walk with a friend. And I'm like, and I think that's what the movie is.
Yeah,
it's
man.
Very story. It's not about the fight scenes. And that's why I love
Everybody walks.
Because everybody
even
walks.
the fucking trees walk.
Bonus.
Yes. Oh my god. The ents are badass, dude. The last march of the ents was amazing. I'm sorry, like it just.
Okay. Yes, ooh. That was very satisfying. But having to go through a movie where they're literally taking 2 scenes to say good morning to each other. I'm like sitting here. It's funny too because like I watched these movies when they were first coming out, like 2001, 2002, 2003. I was 6, 7, and 8 when these movies came out, and 7-year-old me is seeing trailers where there's a bunch of giant trees walking around, and I'm like, oh, awesome! This is gonna be so cool. I don't know why I was so hyped about this. I just was. And then the movie came out and I watched it, and I remember I like lost focus. I tuned out of the movie about halfway through, and I just remember like being like, man, these trees are not in this movie enough and they're not really doing anything. And now I wish they weren't in the movie as much as they were. Like I appreciated the payoff when they finally like they decided to storm Isengard. And I appreciated that. Like that was awesome. But the journey to get there, the Pippin and Merry talking to this tree for 3 hours of a movie was not for me. They could have probably cut some of that out. But again, this goes to watching the extended version versus the theatrical version. I feel like
But it takes so long to say anything in Old Entish, Devin.
Well,
that's why it takes so long.
And
That
I
was the
also
line in the
understand why
movie.
they did it to a degree, because it's like you want that payoff where it's like these trees, they take forever to make any decision or say anything. And then the second the one tree sees the
Treebeard.
deforestation that's happening in Middle Earth, he's just all of a sudden like, we're going to war right now. Like, there's no hesitation in
Yep.
that.
Yeah, he's like beef on site with
Yeah.
Isengard. There was no.
They're catching this bark. So I did like that, but I just wish, I don't know. That's where I think maybe that could have been paced a little bit better. But again, it might just be the way that the extended edition is. There was more
No,
to it.
that part, I think the only thing that the extended added into Two Towers with that scene is where you see Merry and Pippin drinking the water and Fangorn making them taller.
Yeah. Oh,
Everything else was pretty much
what was the point
in
of
the OG
that?
movie. Well, so in the books, it's like they end up being like the two tallest hobbits, and that was like a part that was like another detail they just want to add into the extended, but it kind of took away from like the momentum of the movie and just took up time.
Yeah.
Didn't add too much to it because they didn't touch on it later because it ended up getting cut.
Okay.
But it's the water that made the Ents like come to life and everything, and it made them grow taller, and they ended up being like the tallest hobbits in history of the Shire.
Ah. Yeah, I like how.
Would have been nice to know.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like they don't touch on it ever, and it gets cut. So like that's a big issue. I think watching the extendeds, if you've never touched on the books or read into any of the lore, is like you don't understand what's really happening.
Okay. Huh.
And I'm going to talk about something because they don't do it very well, and it's it has to do with the battle with the Witch King in Pelennor Fields, and it's how he gets killed. They don't really explain it in the movie because people don't care. It just happens. But there's a big reason of how it happened in the books, and I'll have to talk about that so you understand like why it matters.
All right. Well, so I guess that was like I was gonna add more to this list, but I didn't have time. But I just have a lot of notes on each individual movie as well. So I guess we could just. Unless either you have anything you wanted to talk about before we get into each one, I figured we could just go through each one individually.
I guess I want to say, did you have a favorite character starting out into it, and did you have a different one by the end?
I guess I thought Aragorn was pretty cool starting out in Fellowship of the Rings. Like but my problem is like whenever I play Skyrim, I'm a one-handed blade guy. I'm always basically the Aragorn character in these games where I'm just like the human, just knight guy, just like, even though
Strider.
he's called a ranger or a strider or whatever, but that's basically the character I play in any of those games. But by the end of the trilogy, my favorite character was Sam.
Oh, right.
He's really the backbone. He's the backbone of like.
Yeah,
that
people
movie.
like there has been so much recognition towards Sam in the last few years. I feel, or like I say, last few years, since his movies have come out. Like for a while, I was like, oh, it's Frodo, but it's like, dude, Sam is like
Okay.
the driving point of this story, and he's like, if Frodo had been by himself, the ring would have been lost because like people don't talk about that. He was just gonna walk away with it.
You want to know something? I actually think Frodo was my least favorite, most hated character in the entire movie.
Oh,
Frodo annoyed me.
Who feels the exact same way.
He was annoying, to be honest.
But he's also carrying the ring.
I don't care. You can do it in a less wimpy, bitchy manner.
Oh, it does.
And then also like he just like had like full trust in a literal creature that his whole thing
like
was
a crackhead from Parkersburg.
Okay, wait. I want to talk about that. So the reason he trusts Gollum so much because he sees himself.
He
in
still
Gollum.
knows that dude's.
And he wants he wants to believe that he can save him because that means that he can be saved from the influence of the ring.
Yeah.
There is a deleted scene to where we see Frodo getting like corrupted by the ring and turning into like a new Smeagol.
Yeah.
Or Gollum.
Well, in my opinion, chain that fucker up when you go to sleep. That's all I'm saying.
Well, to be fair, they tried to like put him on a leash, but like he just wasn't having it. He's not leash trained. It's fine.
Yeah, I completely empathized with Sam in that situation where it's like, why are you letting this dude near your bags and food and your necks when you're trying to sleep? And he's
Yeah, I know. Like you didn't take shifts
Yep.
sleeping because like I couldn't.
Yeah. It was a little, but I did also appreciate that. Um, Gandalf even said he's like, I see that he will he still has, because at first it's
A
like
role to
he's
play.
following them and he's like, well, why don't we just kill him? And he's like, well, I believe he's still got a bigger role to play in all this, and then he's actually the only reason that the ring ended up in Mountain Doom at the very end. So
Uh-huh.
I thought that was pretty cool
Yeah.
that they were able to.
I don't know. Do you think Sam would push Frodo over?
No,
No,
no. Sam was too nice of a guy.
I'm not gonna lie. There were a couple moments when the journey was done and they were just like sitting on that rock together. I was like, kiss him on the lips.
I ship it. There was a theory. I don't know if it was like it was saying that like if the end of the movie there were three eagles, and it was like because one was there to retrieve Gollum, and then it was like somebody was like, "Now I feel bad." I'm like, "No." I'm like, "No, I don't feel bad. I'm sorry."
And I'm sure this is brought up all the time, but I do have to know
No.
from somebody who's as into this
I
stuff.
think the eagles the
Yeah, I mean, I get it's probably because Sauron would have seen them, but
yeah, and the fell beasts that are swarming.
Yeah.
There's too much of a risk to do that. Like, Sauron had no idea that the hobbits were even like in Mordor.
I thought it would have been really funny. I don't know why my brain does this, but when there's a character, they like look up and they're like, "It's the Eagles." I wanted it to just cut to like the Philadelphia Eagles charging in. I
Or
thought,
like the Madden intro just playing. That would have been great for like the
Definitely.
last stand at the end of the movie, like the black gate, and it's just like the fucking like linebackers charging down the field. Just trying to get the ring into the end zone.
Also, more on Sam. He literally carried
That was
Frodo
awesome.
up
Yeah,
Mount
he's
Doom.
swole. Sam is like low key
Yeah.
ripped.
Like, holy shit.
A gardener.
that bread.
He was the strong man of the Shire.
That bread did him well. Yeah, I like that. I was like trying to figure out for like most of the first movie why he was calling him Mr. Frodo, and then it wasn't until like I think the second one that Frodo like tells another character he's my gardener. He tells him he's like, I'm a gardener, or I'm his gardener.
It was a Faramir when they caught them, and they were like, "What are you, his bodyguard?" And he's like, "His gardener."
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they were friends anyway, but it was like he was the gardener for Bag End.
Yeah, but still, like, I mean, if I'm gardening for, like, say, one of you guys, I'm not going to call you Mr. Sam or Mr. Beck.
I'll call you Mr. Devon for like, where's the respect? I'm paying you. What do you mean? But yeah, I don't know. I don't have anything to add before we hop into Fellowship.
Okay, so this is literally the first thing I wrote starting the movies, though, but it's just literally no movie should be 4 hours long.
Except this movie.
And then, well,
Yeah.
except it's not even 4 hours long. I was expecting the movie to go for the whole runtime, and then the movie ends, and I look, and there's
The
still like
credits are long.
40
Oh,
minutes.
yeah.
And it was
The extended
the
editions have
credits,
so
and
many
then I
credits.
realized it's because I timed it. Literally, it had like half an hour left of credits, and it was all just names of people from the Lord of the Rings fan club.
It's great. I mean, they are giving people credit, man.
Well,
You're gonna bag on them for
Yep.
getting everybody in there.
okay, and then so it opens up with the, I don't know if the theatrical version did this, but it opens up with them like explaining, I assume it had to have explaining like the creation of the rings.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
yeah,
I like
yeah.
how I don't know if Tolkien did this on purpose or not, but they gave rings to 7 dwarves. I was looking for Snow White in the background, like why is it 7 dwarves? Like, is there a significance to that outside of just being a cheeky little
I
reference
feel
to the
like
Disney story, or?
well, so also there's one thing during the intro. I don't know if you picked up on this, right? There's when it says like what 9 men, there are only 8 in that shot. And I was gonna say I thought it was before. Is it post Snow White? Anyway, but there's only like 8 men in that shot. So like the whole thing is people are like, well, when it fades to black, it's supposed to be like you're seeing yourself and like you're the ninth person, and it's
Well,
just
then
like
where's my ring?
you know what? Oh, you want to be an
Yeah, where's my
Asgul,
eternal
Devin?
life also? Where's my eternal
Where's
life?
my? I don't. I don't think that's good at like eternal life. That's misery, right? And not the good one with Kathy Bates.
Is that? I mean, the movie's good, but being in that situation with Kathy Bates wouldn't be good.
Well, I mean, depends
Oh, that's right. I forgot you have a thing for Kathy Bates.
on their lead. Yeah, they're all. One of those was. Yeah. Sorry.
All right, you're going to talk about the birthday party and subsequent events. The first introduction of the One Ring.
Well, okay, so I had written down what was the point of the rings, but I think it was just to control things.
Yeah, well, it's so the inscription on the ring is literally the point of the ring because it's like in fucking to corrupt them and like in darkness bind them. It's literally for him to like take over like the main points of like each species. And he's like giving it to like the heads of each tribe, so he takes over.
So I get from the beginning it was like a trick.
Yeah.
But what did he tell that he just told them this is a ring of power? Like with this you will control.
Sauron can shapeshift, by the way. And he made himself like beautiful like an elf, so people didn't really like distrust him at the time.
Well, I'm sure he was still beautiful under that big ass helmet.
But you know what, like
he was an
Don't you mean that
Adonis.
badass helmet?
Adonis of a man.
Yeah.
But I mean, you know, it was to corrupt them, and it worked on the humans, but not so much the elves. And then the dwarves, it just made them dig, pretty much, made them greedy. Which I argue with, where it says that like they dug too far and too greedily, but they're literally dwarves. That's what they do is they mine. Like I think that's wrong to try to like shame them for doing the one thing that they're known for.
I wonder how they would feel about the video game Minecraft.
Oh my god, diggy hole, man! You know?
Tear that up.
They would love it.
Okay, so yeah, I do like that the introduction to the Shire is, yeah, you know, we're hobbits. We like to drink and smoke weed and just chill and
I felt that.
Grow potatoes.
Yep.
Boil them, mash them, stick them up your ass. You know. But you know, it's.
And okay, so I get that it's tobacco, but there was there were so many moments in the movie where I was like, this could be. I don't know if you guys have ever seen Mac and Devin go to high school, but there's a scene in it where there's like a bunch of dudes all hanging out in a room and they're just like doing smoke tricks, but like one's like, look, check this out, and he blows out smoke and it takes the shape of like a ghost. Like going, woo, and then they're like, oh, that's nothing, check this out. And then he blows out a cloud of smoke and it's like a fucking race car. It's like revving around and driving around and they're just like, oh man, that's so badass. Well, that scene where Gandalf blows out the ship was just like, I was like,
full galleon.
This is like some stuff out of a stupid stoner movie, except it's just tobacco.
Long bottom leaf.
Yeah, but it's tobacco. It's.
Thank you. Say pipe weed.
It can be whatever you want it to be.
I
mean, they're hobbits. They're eating constantly and drinking. So it's definitely weed.
That's what I thought. Like, my first impression was this is weed, but then I looked it up. I'm like, is this supposed to be weed? And people are like, well, technically it's tobacco, but there's a lot of evidence in the books to make you, if you want to believe it's weed, it's weed.
It is. I mean, you see Merry and Pippin giggling their
They were
asses off whenever they find the
yeah.
barrels.
Yeah.
Like, they're hotboxing the little pantry area, like, you know.
Well, and it's also funny because almost everybody I know that loves the Lord of the Rings is like kind of a huge stoner. Outside of Sam, I don't know about your usage, Beck, but I know Sam's not much of a smoker, but he loves the Lord of the Rings. So it's one of those things that it seems like stoners just love epic quests that involve long
Yeah.
bottom leaf.
I partake in pipe weed pretty frequently.
And you love Lord of the Rings, so there you go.
To be fair, I like Lord of the Rings way before I ever started.
Okay, and that's fair too. I think that's how a lot of people are, though.
Yes, I don't know. Like, I got into these movies when I was a kid. Like, I think when we were, I don't. Some like my earliest memories, obviously, are like snippets. I don't remember. I'm like, I was not fully conscious at like 12. Oh my god, I'm sorry. My Discord's going.
I thought that was my Discord, and then I realized it's
Nope,
not open.
I am just getting blown up right now. I gotta mute.
Hey,
this,
tell all of them
but
to jump in and watch the stream.
I want you to know if I did, they just sit in here harassing me and making fun of us for like the next 24 hours.
Well, it's not gonna hurt my feelings. It's just gonna boost.
It'll
numbers.
hurt mine.
Oh, okay.
It'll hurt mine.
I don't need you to start sobbing on stream.
But no, like yeah. So like my dad, we used to watch these in the basement when they were kind of a few years after they came out when I was like a child, and that was just like our thing. And like I fell in love with them after that. And it's just always been like, I've surpassed him in that now. To where like, I thought he was a huge fan because he showed me, and I'd come back talking about all this stuff, and he's like, "Yeah," he's like, "I watched the movies like once with you," and he's like, "That was the extent of my knowledge," and I'm like, "Well, damn." Tony.
Yeah, I was gonna say like I'm kind of a smooth-brained individual, and so I was. Yeah, I mean, I watched these when I was a kid, but to be honest, this whole trilogy just kind of went over my head. Like back when they first came out, because like I said, I was 6, 7, and 8 when these movies came out. For some reason, I had a Return of the King poster in my bedroom, though. I do remember that, so I liked the movie enough to have a poster of it at the time.
Well, as a kid, the thing is, I feel like it's like the fight scenes were amazing. There's nothing wrong with them. You get older, they're still cool, but now you're involved in the story, in the character.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say, and after seeing Battle of the Bastards again, it's like those battles were kind of just meh.
But we could talk about how they literally throw the heads over the wall.
That was cool.
Minister, like, come on.
Release the prisoners! They just start chucking heads.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're like 2 movies ahead. I'm sorry. That's my fault.
Oh, another thing is, so, because talking about the movies going over my head, I did not, like, I understood they were hobbits, but I didn't really know what that meant at the time. So, like, I didn't realize that they were so small. I actually thought everybody was just a giant in these movies. Like, I didn't understand the difference in height as a kid. I'm like, why is that wizard is just a huge wizard? Like, whoa.
Well, Ian McKellen is large.
He
Let's
is
be
pretty
real.
tall.
Like, level
Yeah.
for a second. He's a big ass man as is. But I mean, they're even smaller in the dwarves because you see the shots with Gimli next to the hobbits when they're going up the mountain, and he's still big compared. Like, he feels tall next to them. It's probably nice, but
yeah, I didn't understand. So it was just I was just kind of like trying to process what I was seeing as a kid, and just like I don't really understand what's happening here, but okay, I'll go with it.
I mean, it's a movie, man.
Yeah, let me tell you, the some of the special effects in these movies for being 20, 22 years old, they hold up pretty well.
Yeah.
A lot of them do not.
Which ones are you talking about in particular?
The ones that...
Did you list any of the bad ones?
No, I wish I had, but I did take video of one.
I remember there's some where they do the stunt doubles for the hobbits.
Yeah.
They just use kids.
Well,
And there's
So
like one specific scene where you can really tell.
one of the
It's
funniest
just
things to me, I was watching, it was like a behind the scenes thing, and it's when they're going down the river and they're going past like the statues of Argonath, and
Mhm.
okay, yeah, but like,
Hold on.
oh yeah, Legolas grabbing the
Yeah.
horse. They
What is
need to
that?
pick that apart because it's like the physics just don't work for that. But it was Viggo
I mean, he's an
Mortensen
elf. He's
talking
magic.
about the double for Frodo, or it's just like it's an adult, but he has like dwarfism, and they're going down the river, and it's kind of like they have to be quiet because they can't have their mouths moving and talking, and they're saying that because they're on like a little bit of rapids and there's eddies and stuff, and he says the guy turns around and goes Vigo, or he's like looking ahead, he's like, if we flip the boat, he's like, don't worry about me. He's like, what are you talking about? He's like, we're not going to flip. He's like, I don't know how to swim. He's like, so if we flip, just worry about yourself. And he's like, why are you telling me this now? He's like, you're joking, right? And he's like, no, Vigo. He's like, I'm afraid to take baths sometimes. I'm so scared of the water. And he's like, we're out in the middle of this river now. And he's like, Jesus Christ.
I feel like that'd be something
That
you
was-
say
Yeah, like
beforehand.
really, he's like, I can't swim, but he's like, I'm afraid to take baths sometimes.
That was a kid?
Oh, he was an adult. Like some of the shots
No.
are probably kids, but these people with dwarfism too.
Okay.
And they had like these silicone masks that they would put over their head. But I think the worst one is when Arwen is running with Frodo after he gets stabbed by the wraiths, and there's one scene where it's just like a doll and it's just lifeless, getting slammed around on the horse, and it looks really bad. But it's a split second, so it's like, okay, get away with it for a blink and you miss it more.
There was one shot where it was in the third movie, but Sam is like talking and Mount Doom is in the background, and like for a lot of the shots the smoke is moving out of Mount Doom, and there's one shot that's kind of close up on Sam's face and he's talking and the smoke is just not moving. It's just frozen in one spot in the background. I was like, that didn't look right for a second there.
No.
Yeah. Also, Frodo running into Mount Doom.
Yeah,
That effect.
it's
a little
like, yeah.
little iffy.
There are some bad shots. 20 years old. I still stand by these movies look better in the 20 plus years that they've been out compared to The Hobbit in the last like 6 years. Or 6 or 8 to 8
I do
years.
need to rewatch The Hobbit. I do remember really liking those movies though.
I liked them. It's just they relied too
I
much
think they
on
were still good
CGI.
movies. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, Sam.
Is Sam CGI?
No. Sam was saying something, but I completely cut him off.
I don't know. I was just saying, like, I think they're still like good movies. Like I still enjoy them.
They're good. It's just I can't look at them from I can't look at the effects and like focus on those, or I find myself hating them, especially in Desolation of Smog. Whenever they are like in the mountain and they're making the statue out of gold, like I rewatch those, and it's just so.
Did you watch those?
It doesn't hold up. It doesn't.
Did you watch those in preparation for this stream?
No, they're ingrained in my
Okay.
mind. But I was watching them with some friends because one of them had never seen Lord of the Rings, and he's like, "Well, I really like The Hobbit." I'm like, "Have you seen Lord of the Rings?" He's like, "No." I'm like, "Please, for the love of God," because I'm like, I've gotten one other person to watch him because they'd only seen The Hobbit, and it ruined The Hobbit for him. It just
I do need to rewatch the Hobbit movies now that I have seen Lord of the Rings again. But I did find one thing that was kind of funny is in the first movie, Bilbo, he talks about how like ever since he found the ring, he hasn't aged a day. I'm like, you don't look like Martin Freeman.
Well, to be fair, Martin Freeman doesn't
No,
look like
it's
Ian
slowed.
Holm. Is that his name, right?
Also, it didn't take away his aging. It just slowed his
Ended
aging.
it. Very, very long. And then you see him age rapidly. Like, he forgot a Botox appointment after he gives the ring up.
Because I mean, they say Gollum has been alive for like
Right.
500
Yeah,
years.
I think the only reason it doesn't affect him is because I had a manager at my first job who's like obsessed with Lord of the Rings, and it's because like Smeagol had the ring for just so long that he's just unaffected by losing it to the extent that Bilbo was, because compared to like 60, 70 years against however many hundreds of years.
See, I think I might be also partial because I'm a big fan of Martin Freeman. So I liked him in The Hobbit, and then I was like, this guy does not look like it. I mean, I guess from like a not being critical standpoint, like not like that was more of a joke. They actually do have very similar like
Mm-hmm.
structure of face and honestly, if the story didn't demand that he looked the same pretty much as he had when he found the ring, if it was like he was just an older version of him, it could look like Martin Freeman's character actually aged. But
Yes, I mean,
Yeah.
even that early shot of Ian Holm when he's like young Bilbo, well, rewatching that, I was like, they do look like a decent amount alike for them to be like 20 more,
yeah,
like 12 years later for them just to pull Martin Freeman out and they're like, hey, you're going to play Bilbo. I was like, they didn't do bad casting.
wow.
I was actually really happy with that.
Yeah.
So, one thing I want to, so where are we at for Fellowship right now?
Oh,
what's your next talking point?
We got
well,
past
hold
the
on.
intro
Also,
scene.
Okay, well, we got
also
into the Shire a little bit.
the hot dirt.
Yeah.
One more thing I did want to talk about is so there's like rumors that or there's like when people talk in the Shire about Gandalf, they call him a troublemaker because of
Yeah.
the incident with the dragon. I assume that is the story that we see in The Hobbit, right? That they're referring to.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yes. Yep, because he brings a party of how many
13?
dwarves? Is it 12 dwarves? 13. Just into the Shire, just knocking
That's
Bilbo's
right.
house and is like,
We're gonna eat all your shit
wanna
and
go on a
leave in the
quest?
morning. Like literally
Yeah.
anytime you had friends over to your parents' house, that's basically what they did.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. Also, is Gandalf just always roaming around with like a depot of illegal fireworks in the back of his wagon, or is that just special
Well,
occasions?
it was Bilbo's birthday.
Yeah, but they're always talking about his fireworks, like he.
Well, that was his thing. Is like, well, besides
Well,
being a
he also
literal
probably only
like
comes on.
angel in
Yeah.
human form, he made fireworks, so that was like he's famous for that
Oh,
too.
okay.
Because they bring that up in The Hobbit whenever he shows up, and Bilbo's like, "You're the firework maker, aren't you?" And he's like, "How would you like to kill a dragon?"
Okay.
You know?
All right.
Okay, hold on, wait. I just thought of something. Going back to is Longbottom leaf weed or tobacco? When Saruman and Gandalf are having their conversation, Saruman says, "The Hobbit's leaf has dulled
Yeah,
your
Yeah, so
mind."
that's
again.
like a huge flag. And I'm like, yeah, it's weed.
Yeah, it's weed. There's no
Like
way
if he
it's
said
not.
it's destroyed your lungs, it's tobacco. But I mean, man's gotta eat, dude. Which is, but so God, I'm gonna bring it up before I forget it. And I think it's after Frodo gets stabbed and they wake up in the woods. And I don't know if this is just an extended thing or not because it's been so long since I've only watched the theatrical cut. But you see the trolls that Gandalf turned into stone.
Yeah.
From like, yeah, and I love
That's
that.
extended
I
only.
saw that a while back and I just lost it. I'm like, it's the little details like that. It's like it makes it amazing to me too.
Well, I have to imagine that there's a certain degree of fear in the hearts of anyone involved with making movies or TV shows that touch on something like there's a fandom attached to some of these types of properties that it's like if you anger them, there's risk that they show up at your house with pitchforks and torches.
But we're all high. Apparently, because we like the Rings, so obviously we're all high. We're all gonna go on a journey, like just walking to the house.
I think there's a moment where Frodo first gets like given the ring or whatever. I honestly didn't write down enough detail on this note, but it's basically when the ring starts whispering to somebody. I think it was Frodo.
When they're talking and it's on the table, talking in like black tongue,
yeah, and
whatever.
it starts whispering. I was like, yeah, that's when I throw that shit in the trash. I'm not. I don't.
Well, to be fair, wouldn't have worked.
Yeah, the ring is kind of sentient.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it can be sentient to somebody else. I don't want my ring talking to me.
You know, I mean, yeah, the ring has a mind of its own, like you said, Sam. Because like it literally the reason they had it on a chain is because if it was like on their finger or whatever, because you see it resize whenever Isildur picks it up. and it would like do whatever it could, just like fall off people's hands and stuff. So they put it on that chain so it couldn't just fall.
I was gonna say because there's a scene jumping forward a little bit, but that scene at the tavern when Frodo trips and then he falls and the ring just falls perfectly onto his finger. I'm like, that what? How that's
something funny. But that scene in the book, how they're obviously like, don't draw attention, and he falls. In the book, he gets up on the table, like sings a whole song, then falls over and disappears. So like everybody saw that shit.
But I do okay. So I thought it was really funny, and I because you had made that joke when I said that in the promo picture, you looked like Ed Sheeran, and you're like, if I two-step once more, this will be the furthest I've ever been from the Shire. I actually wrote. I thought for a minute there he was gonna say that every time he took a step. If I take one more step,
you seen that YouTube video?
No.
It's literally every time Sam takes a step in the movie, it cuts back to that scene. Like the first movie's like 9 hours long after that point.
Yeah, I thought that would have been really funny if he just kept saying that, or even just said it occasionally. If I take one more step, it'll be the furthest I've ever been from the Shire. They're like on Mount Doom. He's like, Frodo, if I take one more step.
Yes, I would have loved that on The Rock. He's like, I believe this is the furthest I've ever been from home, Mr. Frodo.
Oh, also, so we first meet Saruman, and I'm like, okay, so for some reason, I remember this guy being a bad guy, but he's not. Like, okay, he's cool. I don't know why I thought he's just like evil wizard man. And then, like, right after I finished writing that note, he turns into evil wizard man. I was like, oh, okay, never mind.
So, your buddy Shane is building right, in the chat. Did you say yeah? Or
yeah, that's him.
I'm really glad he brought that up because I wanted to say it at one point. People talk about they would hate going on walks with Tolkien because he would stop and look at like every tree and flower during their walk, and it would just take hours to get home with him or whatever. And they're like, it explains so much of the ends. And
was he autistic?
What he did with the books. He was in the. I don't think so.
That'd be hilarious if it turns out he was like autistic, and that's like he was just like really, really good at observing things and then writing them down.
Did we know what autism was at that time?
I don't know. I don't. When was he around?
He was in World War I.
Let's Google it. Let's go to the Google.
Say because like he published the books around the 30s or 40s, right? I think. But like he's because I have a friend like I'll argue he's like no D&D like created orcs. I'm like, do you know how old Lord of the Rings is?
Autism. The diagnosis of autism did not occur until 1943.
Well, he would have been he would have been an adult by that point.
So maybe he was. He was like just a savant.
So what they're talking about, I literally just looked it up, and they were like, if he was, they were very mild symptoms because he was a very social person and didn't have like any trouble talking to people.
And maybe he was just Asperger's. Is that word funny to you, Beck?
I only think of South Park. I'm sorry. No, I would never make a joke about mental disorders ever in my life. What kind of man do you think I am?
Fun fact, I actually got diagnosed with Asperger's when I was like 9. I think they ended up saying it was a misdiagnosis a few years later, but I don't know if that's true.
He's just dumb.
Oh, also, speaking of Saruman being a bad guy, then he like starts doing that wizardy shit to Gandalf, and Gandalf starts like spinning on his head. I just wrote Gandalf is really good at breakdancing. Like someone needs to take that clip and just like put some 80s hip hop behind it and put some like Photoshop some cardboard under them.
I was gonna say do the cardboard, like do some graffiti on the back wall or
Yeah.
something. Tag it. Somebody's gonna tag the walls of Isengard.
Also, so there was only one scene that there was like a couple things that I remembered from each of these movies. So like for Two Towers, it was the trees. And then I also remembered there being the scene where Aragorn kind of bursts through the doors near the end. And then the third one, I just remembered, like the ring going. I didn't remember the details. I just remember the ring going into the mountain. And a lot of that also goes to I played the PS2 game for the last movie, but for the first one, the only thing I remembered,
Good game.
The only thing I remembered was the scene where they're hiding behind the tree, and the ring wraith is kind of looking for them. And I just remember that one. And that one scared the hell out of me as a kid.
Oh yeah, good scene. Oh, you talking about scary scenes like in the first movie, Bilbo, the hurrah scene where he lunges at Frodo, like that actually like made me shit myself.
That was a straight up jump scare.
It felt
like
great.
It was taken from a horror film.
One thing I liked is with that scene you were talking about, where they're like under the tree. They took that right from is it from 72, the animated like rotoscope movie. The director, or I think whoever was doing it, if it was like Peter Jackson, somebody had watched that and they liked it so much they put it directly into the movie because of the original.
Okay.
Animated.
Yeah, I definitely need to watch. Like I said, Ralph Bakshi, Wizards is badass, and I would love to do an episode just dedicated to movies like that, like more like mature, adult animated films.
Yeah.
I also do want to talk more about when the ring was first like discovered in the Shire. So after Bilbo hands the ring to Frodo, and Gandalf's like, keep it secret, keep it safe. Gandalf leaves. He comes back like 8 months later. They don't.
I thought it was 2 days later.
Movie,
but it's 17 years.
No, it's not 17. What?
Because it talks about Frodo turns like 30 or 40. He's gone for like 17 years.
Are you serious? I literally thought that was like he was gone for a week.
The thing is, hobbits aren't considered adults until they're like in their 30s or 40s.
You're making this up.
Because their lives are a little bit longer as is. So like Frodo is still technically a child at the time. But he was gone for like 17 years, I thought.
It took him 17 years to go read
like
about
months.
this ring.
I'm looking it up now.
Well, he's traveling everywhere trying to find Smeagol. Because he literally talks about how he's...
There is some stuff too. Yeah. I think Aragorn finally finds him.
Well, Aragorn finds him at the Prancing Pony. But he's also carrying the shards of Narsil on him, if I'm not mistaken. Whenever they first meet him too. Like, it wasn't at Rivendell.
Hey man,
he was
don't just start making shit up and claiming it's in the...
Hold on. No, first off, I will...
Wait, is that the shards? Is that the sword you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Because that was like how he was proving that he was like the heir of Isildur's, because he had the shards.
See, the first time you see those shards, isn't it? It's just already at the Elven.
It's at Rivendell, and it's like on that platform. Yeah, so when they get so in the book, if I'm not mistaken, again, I'm almost positive I'm right, is that he reveals the shards, and that's like him being like, "Oh, I'm the heir."
Well, holy shit, you're
no
right.
Joke.
Yeah, it's a long ass time.
They probably could have done a better job of making it clear that, like, even just put 17 years later across the screen.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Well, I think the issue with that is
that really. I was gonna say that really like shows how long Frodo's been affected by the ring. Just because if you think it's like 2 days, you're like, Oh, why is he such
Yeah.
a whiny bitch?
Yeah.
It's been 2 days.
I
No, it's
straight
been
up thought it was just a
17
couple
years.
days later. He was like, "Yeah, is the ring set?" Because he's just been keeping it in a box. If the ring was sentient and was trying that hard to be found, I feel like 17 years would have been enough time to find a way to get out of that box.
Well, I mean, the ring's sentient to an
I think-
extent.
Yeah, I think the thing is with that, like, its only contact was Frodo.
Yeah.
And like he never really touched it or anything. So
I do not have read the books first.
Yeah, I'm definitely. I thought about at some point reading the book or books.
They're good. I love them.
Is it more than one book?
3. Well, I mean, there's 4 counting The Hobbit, and then there's obviously Fellowship, Two Towers, and Return of the King.
Okay, so those are actually separate. But I didn't know if maybe it was just one huge book that, for movie's sake, they divided.
No, you can buy, I think,
if it
a
was that big,
collection
call it a
of, like, in one book, though.
Okay.
I think if it was that big, you'd call it a tome.
I'm probably never gonna read it, but it was a thought that popped in my head.
I will say that Peter Jackson originally pitching the movies before they got to New Line Cinema, he was pitching it as one movie to cover all of them.
So,
and when they got to New Line, they were like, "Why don't you make it a trilogy?"
So I do like the fact, I didn't know this going into them. I found this out like right around the time I started watching Two Towers, that these were all filmed at once.
Like back to back.
Yeah, they were all filmed. They
Yeah.
just went and filmed all of them at once and then just released them like 2000, 2001, 2002, or maybe it was 2001, 2002, 2003, but it's one a year for 3 years. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
One thing I think is hilarious. They talk about filming with Sean Bean, and obviously, like, they have scenes where they're like trekking on mountains and stuff. Sean Bean was terrified of flying in helicopters, and they said anywhere they shot, he would like climb to. So they're like, the cast is flying up, they're getting to their spot, and they're like, they just look down and see this speck on the side of a mountain in like full gear, and it's just Sean Bean's climbing up. He's like, he wouldn't fly in a helicopter. He's like, I die enough on screen.
I was just saying,
I'm not gonna risk it in real
it's
life.
funny. I was like, there's no way he makes it out of this first movie. It's like a spoiler at this point if he's in the movie that there's gonna be a death in the movie.
Well, what I think we should start doing is, if he lives in a movie, we should put a spoiler out, because nobody would expect that.
Interstellar.
Is he in Interstellar? I was gonna
Yeah,
say National Treasure. He doesn't die.
He
in
lives
it.
through all of Interstellar. You don't see him at all, but he's on the planet and he lives.
Yeah, he also references Lord of the Rings.
Oh, does he?
Wait, is Sean Bean really in Interstellar? I don't think he is.
Sure.
I'm like 99% sure he is not in that movie.
To be fair, again, another long ass movie that I just fell asleep during multiple times.
What, Interstellar?
That's a great movie.
I finished it. I
You're
went back and
kidding.
watched it, but like the first time I did, I fell asleep.
Dude,
a lot.
that movie gave me goosebumps the entire way through the first time I watched it. I was like affected by that movie. And I cried like
Really?
a baby.
I cried at the end of. I still cry like every movie for Lord of the Rings.
I'd see it.
Like I'm not like bawling, but like I'll get a tear at the end of Return of the King, and then Sam's speech in 2, goosebumps every time.
I didn't get anything like that from these movies, but there are 2 movies that really, well, there's one movie that's just a standalone movie, and then one series where I cry during every movie. It's Toy Story. I've cried through every single one. I guess not the first one, but almost every Toy Story.
Is it when they're holding hands at the trash
Yeah, for the third
compactor?
one, yup. And for the second one, it was when Jessie tells the story of when she was abandoned by her first owner. And then the fourth one, I just cried multiple times during. But then Interstellar, I cried when he lost, like, what was it, 17 some odd years on that water planet, and then he's like catching up with his kids' lives and finds out like his son is married and his dad died and one of his grandchildren's come and gone, and then his daughter's like still pissed at him, and then the ending of that movie.
Yep.
And then just all throughout, I mean, Hans Zimmer's soundtrack to that movie, just yeah, goosebumps.
Yeah, so the soundtrack is what has stuck with me for that movie.
It's just incredible. I that's one of my favorite movies of all time.
Okay, so
I
Sean
knew
Bean is
it.
not in Interstellar.
What movie were you thinking of?
I forget. No, I thought it was Sean Bean. I was just wrong.
It's Michael Caine.
I was actually thinking of Bryce Dallas Howard.
God, the high heel bitch. Isn't that who that is? Like,
Or
from
no, sorry,
Jurassic
I'm thinking
World?
Jessica Chastain. Jessica Chastain,
Yeah.
Bryce Dallas Howard, both redheads.
Oh yeah, like we all look
You
the
do.
same. I had a girl say that to me on Tinder once. Because I had a buddy, looks nothing like me, long curly red hair, and she said something about it. I'm like, that's not me. And she was like, y'all look the same. I'm like, is this work for you? Because I'm like, I'm very disinterested because of this. I have the screenshots. I'll send them.
That
to
is
you.
hilarious.
Okay, I had the wrong movie.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that's fair. I feel like that's fair to get mixed up. Those are two very like space movies that two space movies.
Yeah.
That's all I had to say.
I mean, you're right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's fair because they came out roughly around the same time, didn't they?
Yeah, I think Interstellar was 2014 and Martian was 2015.
Yeah, because that was a freshman when
yeah.
Martian came out.
Matt Damon farming those poop potatoes.
Taters. Another movie focusing around potatoes. They should have had Sean Astin play the Martian.
Potatoes.
Potatoes.
No, you just cut him into that scene.
What did you live off of? Potatoes.
Boil and mash them, stick them in the stew.
So, a couple just like really stupid things I wrote down. So there's that scene where they're fighting the ring wraiths, and Aragorn's got like a torch that he's fighting them with, and
Is this on?
yeah. And he throws like the torch at one of them, and they light on fire. I just wrote, "This ring wraith's on fire." And then some. I don't know why I just wrote the sword of Nard Dog. I don't know what that means.
No, Andy?
Yeah.
Nard Dog?
The sword of Nard Dog.
I don't know what you mean either. What do you mean by that's not...
What was the name? What's the name of Aragorn's sword? The shards of.
Well, he wasn't using it, but he has Narsil.
But... And then there's where's it?
It's like
so maybe that's what I was
because that's like
referencing.
the reforged. But he didn't have it at that point.
Well, you know. And then I wrote right under that, Frodo equals pin cushion.
What I loved is she said that he was like turning into a ring wraith, kind of going into like that like place between death and life, and they're like, could you imagine like a 3-foot ring wraith?
They're all
like tripping over his cloak and everything. Just like the baggies.
You're like terrified, and then you see that one, and you're just like, "Oh."
He's riding a fell beast.
Yeah, it's like a mini.
Where is he? Where is he? I can't see him.
Like he walks up to you and you just like ruffle his hair, like, "What's up, champ?" Like,
do they still have hair? We never.
Well, they're invisible. That's why they wear the cloaks. Is because like.
Oh yeah. Okay, they do have hair because he sees them when he goes to the other side.
Because he's in that like wraith dimension. But like the reason they wear the cloaks and everything, and we see this in the animated one, because we see the Witch King and he doesn't wear the cloak. He's just got like a crown on. You just see like 2 glowing orbs for eyes. So it's like the clothes, like they're there physically, like they have like they take up space, but they don't have anything. You can't see anything. So they wear those clothes because you can't see their face or anything. It's way more intimidating. But they could just travel and like not be seen at all.
Yeah.
But it's an intimidation factor, and also it wouldn't apply well on screen.
They could be like translucent from The Boys.
Oh well,
just
I wonder if
naked.
that would work
just
on the ring race too. If we just a bomb. up the ring wraith's ass. Yeah,
Like he's translucent.
that's what Sam was
Yeah.
saying. He's like
So, yeah.
translucent.
Yeah,
I think
sorry, I
that
was looking at my
straight.
phone for a second.
Devin, that's really funny. I'm glad you thought of that.
Um, look here, all right. I'm just, I gotta check something because in the OBS, you guys, your image is a little delayed, so I need to make sure the audio is not messing up here. Um,
You guys want to talk about the Council of
Ooh,
Elrond?
yes, please.
It's when they were in Rivendell.
see, you're
The
gonna have
meeting
to,
of all the
just
races.
describe what is happening because I don't know what the name of any of these things are.
It's basically, it's in the first movie. It's when Frodo finally gets to the elf village, Rivendell, and they have their secret meeting
Mm-hmm.
with all the
Yeah,
humans,
okay,
dwarves,
yeah,
and
that
elves.
was, yes, I know what you speak of.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a great scene.
Well, you know what's funny is even though I didn't remember any of these, and I sometimes I felt like I was gonna get lost or whatever, I was kind of surprised by my ability to keep up with what even predict at some points what was gonna happen, like Boromir wanting to use the ring and being like, well, we should take it. Like I kind of saw that coming for that meeting. Like,
Yeah, 'cause
He's
I
a
mean,
man.
I guess you have the past experience with the
Yeah.
9 kings of men getting corrupted. So it's like,
I just love Merry and Pippin kind of running in
yeah,
like last second, and Mary's like,
yeah,
"Where are we going?"
yeah.
Just obliviously. He
I'll,
was
I'll,
just there for the ride. Like he really is that friend. He's just like, "Where are we going?" He's like, I don't care. Let's just go somewhere.
Yep. The funny thing is, right, when they set off from Bag End, they're walking through that field. They just run into
Yeah.
them, and Merry or Pippin are just like,
I
"There's a ring wraith? What's a ring
like,
wraith?"
oh, dude, he's like, I think I broke something, and he just pulls out the carrot. He's like, oh,
Broken carrot.
but you know, oh,
Yeah, they really got roped. They really got roped into this.
well, they could have gone back home, but like
They
they
could've,
saw
yeah.
that ring wraith, they could have left, but then they're like, oh, the fairy, come on, I'll show you.
Okay, yeah, there's
Yeah.
points during this journey that I don't understand how someone's just like, just go home. Like when they're almost at Mount Doom or like they're almost to Mordor and Frodo just tells Sam, go home. It's like, you want me to go
Oh yeah, when they were
back through
climbing up the
all that
stairs.
shit we just went through by myself? Like,
I mean, and he would have gone back to like a burnt down shire.
yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah,
Like, no, we've passed the point of anyone going home. You're stuck with me, bro. Deal with
Yeah, it's like I'm not turning around the car now.
it.
yeah. I get your talking about Sam there, but Frodo's reaction to that can really show like how much the ring has affected him. Because even his best
Yeah,
friends turned against.
but also that has to do with the thing that they should have chained up so they didn't have the opportunity to dump their bread off the side of the mountain.
Man, what I love that they did in the
Well, they never would have found that mountain.
yeah, they would have tried to go through the black.
No, I'm not
Gate.
saying don't keep him as a guide. I'm just saying when you're not using him as a GPS, chain his ass up to a tree or something.
I don't think you can crate train Gollum. Like,
Put a big rock on him. I don't know.
they give him a couple piddle pads at night. Like, here you go, buddy. But it was Return of the King where they really show it in the extended, like the ring constantly pulling down on Frodo, because it was something before I'd ever watched the extended. It's whenever he's I can't even think of, is it Minas Morgul whenever he gets captured after he gets stabbed by Shelob. You see like all like the marks and stuff around his neck to where it's pulling, and it was like raw. And I remember having to look that up. And I was like, it's because the ring is so heavy on him that it's just like cutting into his
See,
neck.
I was trying to figure out if it was
I think they had a
figurative
scene
or
about-
actually getting heavy.
Oh, it actually got heavier.
Is that really?
Well, it was trying to like slow him down.
I thought it was like mentally getting heavy, like the.
It's probably
Yeah,
both,
say it's like
honestly.
affecting him mentally and like just physically, like draining him because you can see like the cuts on the back of his neck to where the chain's just digging into
That's
it.
what I thought that was, but I wasn't
Yeah.
sure. I just yeah.
That was something that like they taught, like he actually mentions it in the extended and the theatrical. I was probably like my 10th watch of it before I even noticed the cuts.
Your 10th watch of it?
I watch these
I mean,
movies
I
at
think
least once
it
every
shows it
one
pretty
or 2
obviously.
months. Though.
Okay, bro, I like these movies, yes, but I mean, we'll get into it, but
I love these
I
movies.
could-
These are my favorite
I
movies.
could probably rewatch the first one and the third one a few times, but
Two Towers is your least favorite?
yeah.
Really?
That's usually like most people's favorite.
Helm's
No, my
Deep?
favorite was Return of the King. My second favorite
Oh,
was
Okay,
was
yeah.
Fellowship of the
Yep,
Ring.
that's my
Two
favorite.
Towers was some boring ass shit, but we'll get to that.
Okay. No, it's the trees.
It's a
Trees
few
is it.
things.
it's the
fucking
trees.
But the trees did not
God.
help. I like when they're in the mines of Morthal, I think is what is, or Moria, whatever.
Moria.
Moria.
Don't shake your head at me like I should know this terminology.
You just watched the movies.
Yeah,
What do
there.
you
Like I
mean?
said, there was a lot of information being thrown at me, and I haven't seen the movies
I would
10
like-
times. All right.
Let it be known, I was so confident about this stream, I didn't write shit down.
Yeah,
for
I
these
was like
movies.
wondering. I mean, if you've seen them as many times, you probably don't have to.
No, I didn't make any notes. I was playing Pokemon Red through like the first one, because I'm like, I know this shit.
See, I don't, when I take my notes for these movies, I'm not like, I maybe should have for this one, but I'm not like writing down names of characters and locations and everything. I'm just like jotting down my thoughts while watching the movie.
I do a little bit
That's
of both.
why I like some of these notes, I literally don't know what the hell I'm talking about in them anymore. Is because I'm just like, they're literally just my thoughts as it's happening. But I
That's
I
fair.
had written down because I like that when they're attacked by that troll, and it's got the spear, and it tries to like stab Frodo, and then they're all like, "Oh no, he's been stabbed again," for like the third time this movie, and then they flip him over, and he's got the chainmail on, and they're just like, "Man, you're just full of surprises." It's like, how. He was just wearing a shirt.
So I do have a little gripe.
It's not really. He didn't do
I do have a little
anything.
I do have a little gripe with that.
It's Mithril.
I do have a little gripe with that. Blunt damage.
Yeah,
Hello?
no, like that's fair.
Yeah, his
That
internal
shit crushes
bleeding.
ribcage, crushes organs.
Okay, but
Oh well, it's a
can we
movie.
talk about in the cave troll scene, the bonker of orcs, Sam's frying pan that he like
Oh,
murders
yeah.
3 orcs with,
Yeah.
and it's the best. It's like some PUBG bullshit. He just pulls out a frying
Yeah.
pan and starts smiting them down.
That's the best weapon of the.
Yeah, but you know, cast iron pans are
They're a force
heavy.
to be reckoned with.
I
He
mean,
can wield that like
yeah.
nobody's
Yeah,
business.
that was probably the best weapon in the 3 movies.
Sting and Sear.
No, frying pan.
What was sear again?
What'd you say?
What was sear
Frying,
again?
searing like on a pan.
Oh, is that the name of
I
the
thought it
frying
was
pan?
funny. No, I just made that up. I was just joking. But it sounds good. Huh?
Yeah, all right. I agree.
It
Yes.
does. Yeah, it does. Yeah.
I don't know. We can call it like blackened. I don't fucking care.
Yeah, I think probably the mines is one of my favorite areas in the movie.
Oh,
Just because once they got to like the expansive place with all the pillars, like
Okay, there's
holy
a shot.
It's just-
There's a shot. It's like an aerial shot of them running through the mines, though. It straight up looks like it was
Yeah.
taken from like a video game of that era. Like they're running and they almost don't like
Yeah.
line up with the way the floor is moving right.
Yeah, it's like the same thing with when Frodo enters Mordor, a little bit, and also with all the things crawling down from
Yeah,
the ceiling.
it just
the
looks
orcs,
so off and uncanny.
Oh man! And then once they're surrounded,
there's that one goblin.
you just start hearing footsteps. Also, oh my god, the introduction to the balrog.
There is one goblin in that scene where they're surrounded
was so good.
haunted me as a child and still to this day, and it's like the bug eye one. I don't know if you know, but like there's a group, there's like a Facebook group I'm on, and if you bring up that goblin, we know exactly what you're
Oh
talking
my
about.
god.
Yeah, the balrog of Morgoth. Yeah, yeah.
Diablo enemy. The thing was like an enemy from Diablo. I feel like.
Man. Okay. But you don't have to spend $25,000 to get it.
Yeah, I just looked up Mines of Moria Goblin, and it's like the second image.
Yeah, exactly. It's so well known. I'm
Yeah.
not like it scared me as a child. Like I would be afraid to go to my bedroom because I could just like imagine it being there. Low key a horror movie sometimes.
Yep.
I did.
Yep.
There's also the thing talking about Gandalf was like actually just XP farming, and the reason he sent everybody ahead is so he could come back with like all new gear, be like 12 levels above him.
Yeah, okay. Well, we'll get into that when we start talking about Two Towers. But I did like. I didn't realize it happened so early that he's like, "You shall not pass." Like I actually used to say that
Classic.
all the time, and I didn't even like Lord of the Rings. Like that's how like famous that line is, and I didn't realize it was in the first movie.
That was my ringtone for a while.
Then he literally fucking dies.
Yeah.
Well, you think he dies?
Well, he does.
No, he dies. Remember, he's like an angel. He's like a mythical being.
Okay, so that might.
They say like his work is not yet.
That might
done,
answer.
so
He was the only one of the 5 wizards or like angels to be brought down that is still doing his mission, and hence like why he was brought back.
That'll probably answer some of the questions I had for the second one.
Yeah, and so he says he comes back as Saruman should be
at the turn of the tide. Because I don't remember the name, but they were the 2 blue wizards that basically started a cult. Radagast, Saruman, and then Gandalf.
We don't see the blue wizards in the movies, do we?
We don't see them at all. Like I said, they just kind of dicked off. If I'm right, like they just basically started a cult, and so they're just.
Also, don't forget Tom Bombadil.
Well, he's not a wizard. People believe that he is the
not?
embodiment of Tolkien in the world because he's unaffected by the ring or anything else. But he's in his own like. Little
and this
world.
character also was not in the movies.
No.
So both of you have read the books.
They meet. No, I've just heard about Tom Bombadil.
Tom Bombadil,
the Lord of the Rings subreddit.
Dude sounds like a politician from Florida.
He is He could not be affected by the ring or anything. I think he put it on and nothing happened to him at all. He's just God, like pretty much in Middle Earth. But there's
and they encounter him once when they're heading to Rivendell.
Tom Mobamba.
That's it.
But he just sings the entire time. There was like a big point where they meet him and like a thing where he's like kind of saves them in the first book, and that's what I have to talk about when we get to the Return of the King, because like there's a big part in the book that like leads to a fight, and it's something that they pick up while they're there. Anyway, I'll get into it, but later.
Are you talking about which? King?
Yes, exactly. Yeah,
okay,
you know what I'm about to say, because like they don't get it in the movie.
They do it. No, I think they do it differently in the movie.
It's the knife.
It's when they get the gifts from the elves.
But they still don't explain like why it did what it did.
It's true. Yeah, they're just like, hey, here's this magic knife. And 2 movies later, if you remember it.
Yeah, like if you remember, like somehow he didn't lose that, but man. All right, Devin, what's your next point for Fellowship then?
The next thing I have written down is Boromir is like that guy in the Vietnam War movie where he's just taking gunshots from a machine gun. Well,
that's a parody.
I think Apocalypse Now.
A parody. Yeah, is it?
I think so. Where Willem Dafoe's character is like getting fucking machine gunned. But in Tropic Thunder, Ben Stiller's doing it for like way longer. But yeah, Boromir he took like fucking how many arrows, and he's just like
3.
It's a It's
Three
Or
Platoon.
arrows.
It's
Platoon. Okay.
Platoon.
But yeah, it's 3 arrows.
Yeah, but still, I was just like that. It's
I
just
think
how many does it take to drop this man? And then I,
How
I,
many
I,
lives?
I
I
actually
will.
really wanted that when that orc is like standing like 2 feet away from him and he's got his bow pulled back. I was really hoping he was gonna let that one go and we were just gonna see him get like obliterated.
Bodied.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, but they
yeah,
needed
I
the
know.
after scene with him and
Oh,
Aragorn.
that get and then whenever like one thing I love is whenever they're sending him down the river, you see that Aragorn took Boromir's braces off, like his arms, and he's wearing Boromir's through the entire series now.
Mine now, loser.
Oh, it's nice. It's like it was his brother, like in arms now, like,
Yeah.
and he just like and it's a continuity thing that I love is that they kept it throughout the entire like the next two movies is that he's wearing his bracers.
Yeah. But yeah, that scene always
Oh,
gets me.
every time
Because
it gives him
I
a little
think
kiss on the
by
forehead. Mm.
yeah, watching the extended ones after watching the theatrical, it really expands Boromir's character because in the theatrical you don't get the scenes. I think it's is it the third movie?
Oh, the second one, it's Osgiliath. Yeah.
Yes, the second one when they're at Osgiliath, you don't get
No,
those
it
scenes.
does make it gives his
So
character way more justice, and it sees that he's just trying to protect his people.
yeah, and like he's a good person. It just shows how
The ring
quickly
corrupted him.
the ring
Yeah.
can. Yeah,
Like people shit on Boromir, but like if you watch the extended, his character arc really gets completed like a lot better.
So was this?
And then it also expands into Faramir and like how fucked up his storyline is.
So was this
Yeah.
your first time watching the extended, Sam? No.
no, I've seen the extended already. Yeah, I think as soon as I got your HBO.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Wow.
because I had already seen the theatrical like 5 or 6
Was that
times
the-
by then.
Was that what I gave
And
you
then-
my password for HBO and you're like, I'm gonna watch Doctor Who? I'm like, that's not why I'm giving you.
Ooh.
That's
Yeah.
not why I'm giving
Doctor
you the
Who.
password. I honestly was giving it to you so you could watch like I think like Game of Thrones or Barry or something, or I wanted you to watch something.
Yeah. I'll
Barry-
get to those.
Doctor
Mhm.
Who is
Now
priority.
Barry
Come
is
on.
priority right now, and then you got to watch Game of Thrones because Barry won't take you long. But
I was feeling Doctor Who mainly because of the Angels episode, the Stone Angels.
Ooh, the Weeping Angels.
Hmm
Yeah.
The ones that you look away from them and they.
Yeah, dude, I love
Yeah.
Doctor Who. Yeah, I get it.
That's fucked.
nerds.
Anyways.
I'm sorry, Devin. I'm looking at your room right now. Who did a time lapse on their Instagram of building a Lego Yoda?
Okay, you know what? That wasn't. I don't think that was a Lego Yoda. I think that was I was doing a Harry Potter. I was doing the Hogwarts Express.
No. This was like after you had trained me at Donato's living in Columbus. You did a Baby Yoda
No,
build.
the Baby Yoda build I did actually a couple months ago. The Baby Yoda right there. This guy maybe
Hold on, I'm gonna
I
go
did
back
do the
real
time
quick.
lapse of Yoda, but then I also have the Hogwarts Express right here, and I thought that's what I was doing the time lapse
Yeah.
of. I can't remember though. That was like a couple years ago. It was like when COVID first started.
January 19th, 2020.
Yeah, I was talking about watching the extended after the theatrical. My favorite part of watching the extended is just be like, this was
See,
in the
and that's what
theatrical.
I was. My
That
issue
one
was
was in
I
the
hadn't
theatrical.
seen the theatrical since like they came out, and so I was just like, "Is this it?" I didn't know what was added and what was in the. So
I think it is good to like watch both of them
Mm-hmm.
pretty recently together,
compare.
just to see like
I will say, like, nothing
Yeah.
in the extended editions like felt really out of place. It like all
Yeah, I
felt
mean,
like after
it's-
watching all three of them together, like it felt like everything that was in there was necessary for one reason or another to be in there. It's just my issue was some of it could have been done a little differently or gotten to the point a little quicker.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's fair.
yeah.
Because, like I said, yeah, like I agree with you. Like, yeah, it doesn't feel like any other extended edition movie you'll watch where it's like this is just thrown
Yeah.
in, almost. It was like clearly they were going through and they were like, this would be the best part to cut and still keep the story flowing pretty smoothly.
Yeah, like cut the we just finished saying good morning.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
not the theatrical.
And then like there's that one scene, Elrond in Isildur in the beginning to where he's like, "Come on," when he's lying on the ground, or he picks up the ring and sees it resides, like that, like a few minutes, right, a couple minutes right there they cut out. Yeah, fair enough. But I do like when we see him get ambushed by orcs, that we see him like turn invisible, put the ring on, and like try
Yeah,
to run.
and then
I love
actually
that
jump into the water.
yeah, I love you. We see
And
that.
in the theatrical, you just see him floating down the river with
Yeah,
arrows.
it's like when they see.
Yeah.
I think what you see him get ambushed like for a second, and then it's just him floating.
Yeah. And I guess with the extended, it shows like you were saying, the ring can resize and just fall off his finger.
Yeah, it was great. Extendeds are so better to me. So much better.
That's another thing. I mean, yeah, I enjoyed these movies. I don't regret giving you and Tanner those DVDs.
Dude, I love that. I'm still thankful
I
to this day
really-
for that. That completed my
Anyway,
collection.
if I ever like have the desire to own those movies, I'm going Blu-ray because I'm a Blu-ray man.
Oh, come on. You have to take the disc out and put in the second one for the ones you gave me.
Wait,
It's so
so you
good.
have the movie is divided into separate discs?
There are 4 discs in one thing. There's like the 2 extras, and then there's like the first half is on one, it
Like the
ends at like the meeting of Elrond on the
Like the Titanic VHS tapes?
yeah, I guess. I don't know. I don't own Titanic on
I'm
VHS.
I'm pretty sure it's because, I mean, remember,
the-
they're 4 hours
It's
long.
like 2 hours
and
on each
and a
disc.
CD can only hold
the
too much.
Titanic
So much.
VHS tapes, it came in 2 tapes, and the first tape was like
Yeah.
all the like romance between Jack and Rose, and it ended like right when they struck the iceberg, or right before they struck the iceberg.
kills the
And then the
momentum.
second tape was literally from the second they hit the iceberg on. So most of the time when I would watch the Titanic, I'd just put the second tape in. I would skip the first tape completely and just go to the sinking of the Titanic.
I agree. I don't need everything else. I liked the sinking part. But I know Godfather Part 3, I had that on VHS, and it's like 2 tapes.
Yeah, see, I mean, I just didn't know that was necessary with a DVD.
Well, I mean, they were early DVDs too. They aren't like newer, because like now they are just on one DVD. But with the first one, I don't remember how the other ones work. 'Cause I didn't watch those on DVD like anytime soon. But I know that it cuts out at the meeting of Elrond when the Fellowship forms, and then it stops there, and then it picks up. And I think that's a really good.
Shit, I wish I had something where I could have like known good places to stop and then pick it up later, because I just watched each movie in one sitting. But I would like pause it, go do something for a little bit,
Oh,
and then
God.
come back. And no, I mean, there were times that I was like, I don't want to watch any more of this right now, but I don't
That's
know where a
fair.
good point to stop would be.
Anytime that they get to a new place and are about to leave for the next one, I would say that's my best advice.
Actually, it's funny enough with Return of the King, I was like at one point like I'm just gonna stop at 2 hours, and then I was like, well, I'll just watch a little bit more. Well, you know what? This is pretty good. I'll just watch a little bit more, and then I was like, all right, I've got like half an hour left. I'll just finish the fucking movie.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, it was. I really like that one.
I don't know, man.
Everything finally culminates.
Yeah.
And it's like you get into the story. I mean,
I don't know. People ask me that, and I can't. I have such a difficult time choosing my favorite out of the 3. I don't know.
I mean, it is all one movie, so.
It is. It is.
All right, did you guys
It
did you guys have anything else you wanted to talk about with the first one?
no, I'm good.
All right, well then I guess we'll move on to the Two Towers. But okay, so my first question with Two Towers was how the hell did Gandalf's ass at the ripe old age of whatever the hell he's at survive all the
millennia.
force
Yeah,
from
like-
falling, getting smacked into the walls by large fire demon, and hitting the water at such a high velocity from falling at that height.
He's an angel.
He's magic. He casts spells.
Yeah. He rolled a nat 20 with protection.
Yeah. He's just so much better. I think, okay, I'm not entirely sure about this, but all of the Balrog are basically fallen Maiar. And
That sounds
Gandalf is a
right.
Maiar.
So Gandalf was basically fighting like a demonized version of himself.
Kinda. I think.
But didn't they find it by mining?
Well, so in one of the first wars with Morgoth, he had like used the Balrog to help fight, and then most of them gotten killed off. And that one was just kind of, I don't know if you want to call it hibernating and hiding, asleep, whatever, but they woke it up because after like it'd been gone for X amount of years, and they thought they were all kind of killed off. I think.
I thought you should know. You're the king of the rings.
Devin, what do you want from me? What do you want from me?
I need a lore expert here. I need like a Tolkien historian.
I am the closest you'll get.
Ah,
You know how much lore there
isn't
is,
there
man?
like a whole like college course you can take that studies this kind of like the Tolkien
Pretty
101?
much. There are classes dedicated to Tolkien. I mean, shit, the guy created the Elven language before he wrote the books.
I swear this dude was autistic. All right, so so going back to the first one, I think it was in the first one, they all get gifted an item by Kate Blanchett's character. And Sam
Galadriel.
gets rope. And I'm like, this is gonna come to be important at some point in the story. And then the important part of it was it helped them rappel down a wall pretty casually. And then he's just like, all right, well, I'm just going to leave the rope. Why would you leave the rope?
But he gets it.
Yeah, I know he does get
There's
it
nothing they
back.
can do about it.
But he's just like, yeah, I'm just going to leave the rope.
He was
There's
sad
nothing they can
about
do
it.
about it. He was.
Because he was like, well, that's a waste of good rope.
But then
you
he's
know?
like,
And he gave it a little tug, and he's like,
yeah.
"Oh, look at that."
And then he never uses it again.
Well, they didn't have another wall.
I thought
They didn't have to climb down.
I thought maybe
anything
he
else.
could have. Why didn't he use it to like pull Frodo out of Mount Doom or something?
Nah, well, because here's the thing: he tried to pull it, it just come untied.
He just dangles it and says, "Grab the rope and then pull."
Nah. Well,
Also, I'm pretty sure
his
he
hands were covered in blood. No grip.
Also,
No grip.
I'm pretty sure he didn't have it.
Oh, they did loot.
Because there's
Yeah.
the scene where
Oh,
they
yeah.
throw all the stuff they don't need.
That rope was so thin and light looking. He probably could have held on to the rope.
He
Probably.
had
Yeah.
no grip strength.
Wrap it
after all.
around your hand and just hold on as tight as you can. I don't know. There's just it felt like they were setting up for that thing to be a little more epic than just used
Yeah.
for. But you know.
Well, Sam wasn't even too thrilled with the rope. He's like, "You don't have to have another one of those fancy knives, do you?" And she just smiles at him like, "You little shithead." But also, can I just say that like, I love Sam, and I like to think like I identify with him like as somebody from a culinary standpoint that he died. He was like willing to risk his life. For seasoning.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, when
Like,
they're
he
climbing
was
down the
really
rope.
like, "Oh, I
He's
brought
like,
salt."
And then I like how it turns out they were only like, what, 6 feet off the ground at that point? I
Yeah.
Yeah.
Frodo drops.
found the
and-
bottom.
And he's like, why? He's like, well, I figured if we found a chicken.
And Frodo, I think honestly that was a good scene because I mean, Frodo did laugh.
Like, it really brings out those points, like, even in the worst of moments, like, Sam is like the Quaalude of those two. Like, it just makes you feel good.
Even Frodo had the line, "Nothing ever takes as serious does it, Sam."
It's true. Sam was the comedic relief of the two.
Oh, there you go. There's a great point from Shane. Tie Gollum's ass
They
up
did use it to tie Golem though,
at night.
but they used it as a leash on him. They did, and he got pissed off because he was like the elven
Well,
rope.
I don't
burned
care
him.
what he.
Yeah, and he was just
I
like,
guess you probably.
Yeah, he was
probably
like a
couldn't
dog. Like
sleep.
he's like, ah! And they're like tugging on him, and he's just like, I don't want to go.
That's true. They probably wouldn't have been able to get much sleep when he's just screaming, "It burns!" And they're like, "Shut up! We're trying to sleep."
Should have kept using it.
They kick him.
I bet. I bet if Sam kept the rope, he would have used that shit on Rosie.
Nice.
Anyway. Nice.
So I had no idea Carl Urban was in this movie.
I was gonna ask
Yeah.
you, with the boys, did you recognize Denethor watching the movie?
Well, yeah, I mean, I recognized him the second I saw him, but
Yeah, I was gonna say because he plays his dad in
I
the
didn't-
boys.
wait, what?
Carl Urban's dad in the boys is the actor who plays Denethor.
Denethor's the king of Minas Tirith, or
Yeah.
Gondor.
Boromir and Faramir's
Oh,
children.
okay. I
Stewart,
see. I'm
not
trying
king.
to. I don't know. It's been a while since I've seen The Boys season 2. That's when his dad shows up, right? It's I
Yes.
like barely remember, so no, I didn't recognize him. I just
Oh.
recognized Carl Urban the second he showed up on screen. I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah, Éomer. Oh, the Rohirrim are like my favorite like kingdom out of that movie.
Yeah. And how can you say Two Towers is the worst when there's Helm's Deep? All right. Horse Charge.
Well, that's not the best horse charge out of the trilogy, to be fair.
That's also true.
But
That's
we
true.
have him.
But we're
Shields
on
to
Remind me
too.
again. Which one is Helm's Deep?
It's the last battle of Two
Okay.
Towers. Whenever the wall gets blown up and the elves show up to help.
Okay, so that's really interesting. I want to talk about that. Saruman introducing
Yeah.
gunpowder
Yeah,
to the world.
yeah.
Alchemy.
That's why
Yep.
Wormtongue killed him. It's because he didn't want him to like advance civilization too far.
Oh god, I have something I want to bring up.
Helm's Deep was a pain in the ass mission of the Two Towers game.
So,
anyway, sorry.
there's something that was that I should have added to the list of things that bothered me about this movie, but it just popped into my head, and it really became blatant to me at the beginning of Return of the King, I think it was. But there's a lot of moments in these movies where a character is talking, and like everybody for miles can for some reason hear them, or at
Yeah.
Return in the beginning of Return of the King when they're yelling or they're talking to Saruman, who is at the top of this massive tower, and the dude's talking like this, like Grima,
Magic.
Grima, come down, and he can hear him all the magic. That's like that
Magic.
scene
Also,
from Barry season 2 where Fuchs is walking down the stairs. He's like, so I see that there's like a problem between the two, and then it cuts over to the guy he's talking to, and he's like, is he talking to us? I think, oh, I hear my name. Yeah, he's definitely talking to us. Like, and you can barely hear him. Like,
That's also comes up in Return of the King at the ending scene
Yeah.
after Aragorn gets crowned and he does his speech.
and he has no
and
PA
starts
system.
singing. Like all the people at the end, once they zoom out, you just
Yeah,
see how
it's
many
like,
people are there.
what
All
did
the
he
people at the end
say?
are just like, what's he saying?
What he said? Chocolate.
That guy at the back had to be like sweating because he's like, didn't the other guy just like plummet off of this? You're like, don't push me.
Oh, well, now you brought it up. When Denethor gets lit on fire, there's no way he runs that far.
I don't know, man. You're adrenaline, and like after like so long, you just don't have like your nerves are burnt off, so you don't really like, feel the pain.
It's not about the pain. He'd be dead.
Nah,
before he
he had
reached
so
there.
much of a coat to burn through.
He's very
He's fine.
thick-skinned.
Yeah, yeah, you know how cold his heart was.
Okay, so there's a scene where Aragorn kicks a helmet, and I assume
Oh, I knew you
I
were gonna
assume
bring
that's
this
the
up.
infamous helmet kick that you guys spoke of.
Yeah, where he
Yeah.
breaks his toe. Well,
Did you know Viggo Mortensen
So
actually broke
my
his toe in
question
this
is,
scene?
he also chipped his
my
tooth at Helm's
question
Deep.
is, they filmed all these movies in one. So did they have to like stop filming for a period of time so that he could heal and just like film scenes that?
I would like to say with Vigo.
Probably.
I want to say with Viggo Mortensen, probably not, because he was just a Chad.
I mean, that's fair.
And then there was a Sean Astin like gouged his foot open at the end of Fellowship when he was running out to the boat. There's a scene where you can see he stepped on a piece of glass and they had to like helivac him out because he just cut his foot open.
Holy shit.
Wait, what happened? Sorry, I was reading the.
It's Fellowship when Sam's running out to the boat. Sean Astin, like you see, they have it on film to where he's running out, stops and grabs the boat, and he stepped on a piece of glass and just cut the bottom of his foot open.
So that wasn't. I thought they were wearing like weird ass shoes that were made to look like hairy
they're still
hobbit feet.
It's like cosmetic.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's not really.
Because again, actually, so funny in The Boys, Kimiko, they had fake feet on her, and they're talking about when she's running through the subway system. She actually just ended up going barefoot because they just never stayed on.
Why did they have fake feet on Kimiko?
Because she was barefoot, and they were doing that, so they wanted to try to give her like some protection.
Huh.
But
The more you know.
But, yeah. You know, he broke his toe there. And one thing about talking about real things, when he gets the knife thrown at him in the Fellowship by Lurtz, that was an accident. That was a real knife that got thrown at him, and he actually hid it away. That was
sick.
Real. He used like a real it wasn't like for the scenes where it had to be sharp, like they weren't fighting. He used a real sword, but then he had like a dulled one that was completely metal that he still used in those choreographed fight scenes because he's like, you're gonna get tired fighting, so he wanted to keep it like as realistic as possible. So he used like a real weighted sword.
So I'm sorry, I gotta go back to this real quick, but it's not related to Lord of the Rings in any way. But the Kimiko fake feet thing, how much do you think those would go for on eBay?
Dude, so much. I'm glad you brought that up. I have a bid right now.
Yeah, check. Somebody's like, wait, what? Those, I could buy those?
Like, you're telling me I could have a sleeve.
What's the next?
All right.
I already talked about being hyped on the talking trees.
Yeah.
Bad guys being cartoonish. Yeah, Grima was the biggest offender of that by far. Just like looking like like a fucking Kroger brand Snape, but that had a fever
Snape
the
wasn't
whole
evil.
time. Okay, did either of you watch Community?
With Donald Glover?
Really.
No. Well, there's a character played by Ken Jeong, the Asian dude from The Hangover. His name is Ben Chang, and he's like, he starts off as the Spanish teacher in Community, but then as the seasons progress, he becomes more and more of like just an insane character. And there's a plot line or like a story arc, multiple episode arc where Ben is trying to join the study group, the like core character study group. And at this point that there's kind of like a running like idea within the school that for whatever reason the table that they study at, it's like magical and it brings people together, and Ben wants to be a part of that so badly. And he's like, there's a lot of scenes where he starts doing the Gollum thing where he's like, they will never let you into the study group. No, but they said they would. They're my friends. Well, they lied. And it just, I couldn't stop thinking about that while Gollum was doing it. I almost like imagined that he had Ben Chang's face. And I know that was definitely a reference to the Lord of the Rings, but I couldn't stop thinking about that.
Why can't I think of his name right? So Andy Serkis.
Yeah,
who played
and that was like, I think his big breakout role that made him to like now he's just like the CGI guy for like everything. If you need a CGI
Well, I
character
think
that's believable, you get Andy
it's Andy.
Serkis. Or
One thing I loved is they talked about like the suits that he had to wear, and they only had like one or two because they were like, we won't need that many. But they talked about like how physical he was in the role, and he was just like tearing them up, like kicking around on rocks and shit, like tearing the suit. And he had like a special drink that they called Gollum juice to like make his throat like so it wouldn't get destroyed just by doing that voice. And the scene where they're talking about the rabbits and like the whole like potatoes comes up, you see Gollum like spit, and Andy Serkis, he's like, that is the only actual part of me that has made it into the movie because that was his actual glob of spit shooting out, and they kept it in.
so that scene where he's like potatoes, that reminds me because they're talking about so he talks about that, and then Gollum's just like, just give me a fish, and the next line he says, I had
wiggly.
so what if you're hanging out with your girlfriend and she just gives you a look and she says, give it to us raw and wriggling, but in the Gollum voice.
Yeah. I mean, shit. You gotta do what a man's gotta do.
I think I'd be like, I want a divorce. We're not even married.
You want to divorce your girlfriend?
Like, I'm sorry if
I'm sure
you're,
that's how
if
it
you're
works.
referencing Lord of the Rings like that, I need to leave.
See, that's like a plus. If you're quoting Lord of the Rings to me, I'm like, I want to marry you.
I might get that way someday, but right now I'm just, they're okay movies. It's all right. It's all right.
It's just a. Anyway.
I also thought of a sketch, like a comedy sketch, while I was watching these movies. And it's kind of like a mix between like a comedy sketch and like a prank, but you get somebody to record themselves for either a week, a month, a year, don't know what the time frame is, but for this duration of time, anytime they talk to anybody, they can only use Lord of the Rings quotes.
Okay.
They can only say
a lot of
lines from
those.
Lord of the Rings. And they gotta figure out a way, they gotta like learn all the good ones that they can use in multiple situations and then just kind of like roll with it.
Does this include the Elvish
Yeah, they just start
voice?
speaking in other languages.
Yeah.
I mean, if it works. And then people are like, what are you doing? And then they have to try and explain it to them using Lord of the Rings quotes.
Somebody's asking you about like travel advice, and you're saying, "Why?" You know.
All right, I'm gonna talk about probably one of my favorite scenes from the Two Towers. Probably the attack on Isengard.
Oh yeah, that
By the
was
trees.
like
Yeah,
my
that's
favorite
smart.
part of the
And-
movie.
Yeah. And I loved Mary's idea just to get Treebeard to go past the forest that Saruman had destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
Because that was his intention the whole time, just to drag him into the war.
Yeah, because it's like,
Just to...
sorry.
No. I was basically
That was
done.
like the most.
Nobody
That
said,
was
yeah,
the
you're
most useful thing Pippin did the whole fucking trilogy.
Fool of a took.
I mean, he did get Gandalf to level up. If he had never have done that, Gandalf never have fought the Balrog and gotten to turn into Gandalf the White. But yeah, no, because it's like clearly they weren't going to get it across to him with words, so like you had to show him. I absolutely love whenever they break the dam and you see that one just like, you know, running in like full tilt, just shoving his head under the water because he's on fire.
See, what I don't get is why they didn't do that first, because the dam being destroyed just kind of destroyed everything.
Well, you know, had to get to it somehow. But
Yeah,
you know,
they had
it's
to
like,
show they had to show
I
orcs
was
getting
really-
crushed by trees.
you really have to think about how big of a role those two hobbits played in the war because they took down Isengard. Like they caused Isengard.
I was
to get
really
destroyed.
mad that when the water
Yeah.
was rushing, the tree didn't say "plant your feet." I wanted one of them to say that, but no.
Okay. Yep.
And then once
That would have been
Gandalf
good.
gets there, in the background when he's talking to Treebeard, you can just see trees throwing rocks at the bottom of the tower, trying to take it down.
Dude, the
There's
trees
Yeah.
nothing they can do about it.
the trees when they're doing stuff are awesome. It's when
Yeah.
they are having discussions about stuff or just explaining things or mistaking hobbits for orcs. Like all that I probably could have done without.
Oh yeah, they come there like, well, we've come to the agreement. You were not orcs.
And that's after saying good morning.
Yeah.
Too. It's like
Oh, shit, like, and what I was talking about earlier with the apple, Sam, is obviously, like I said, Pippin gets hit on the head with the apple. He's looking up, like, because he thought it fell from the sky. Whenever they're standing in the water, all the food starts floating out. He sees the apple and he picks it up and he looks up at the sky. And that makes me laugh so hard every time because he's just like, where are they coming from? But they pick up like a soggy turkey out of the water, chicken, and just throw it in a basket.
Also, that does kind of connect back to Sam, with salt.
Salt, man. Yo,
What if we get a whole roast turkey?
Well, that's like I like when the elves they give them the Wayfarer bread or whatever, and they're like, the one bite of this can fill up a full man's stomach, and then was it Merry or Pippin look at the other one and they're like, how many of those did you eat? He's like 4.
Because he's like, how many of you? He's like, 4. But then they get the barrels a long bottom leaf, and they're like, "You think we should share these with Treebeard?" And they're like, "What if it's like a long lost relative?" He's like, good point. He's like,
there's a scene with Treebeard outside. He just smells the smoke. He's like,
fucking stoners.
he's like really the parent. Like, good God, Jonathan.
Speaking of food, Helm's Deep. When what's her name is walking around with the soup, offering it to soldiers,
Eowyn.
and she offers some to Aragorn, and he takes it and he takes a sip, or he takes a big mouthful, and then he just stops.
He's like,
and he's struggling to get it down, and he's like, "It's good." I thought that was pretty funny.
Then she fucking walks away. He's about to pour it out.
Turns around.
She turns around.
I also like how she was offering this soup to like anybody who wanted it, and she only had one fucking spoon.
And one bowl too. Yeah.
Sorry.
Also, this is
And then Aragorn being 87.
Yeah, that blew my mind when he said that. I was like, what?
Yep.
Face cream. Botox.
Yeah.
It's from the line of Numenor, was it?
Yeah, he was a descendant of Numenor, like one of the Dunedain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're blessed with long life. So.
He ended up living to be like 210 years old, and he finally died by choice. And then, because he wanted his son to take over, if I'm right, it was because he wanted his son to have a chance to rule over like Gondor. So he dies, and then Arwen was like distraught, and she died. Like, just didn't want to give up or stop dying at that point. And I'm like, well, sweetie, like you chose to become mortal. So like, also Merry and Pippin, after they died, they ended up getting buried next to Aragorn, which I love.
So I have a question. As like diehard Lord of the Rings fans, do you see any chance of somebody stepping up and making a full blown sequel?
What do you mean?
There's really no other
tell a story of Sam that he's got to write in the book.
Oh no. I don't think Tolkien's estate will never let that happen.
Yeah.
But also, I think if they did anything, they should do a prequel and do like the Silmarillion.
No.
I think that would be the only chance that we would see is like, oh, they're doing like the Rings of Power.
Well, because he handed Sam the book at the end and was like, yeah, you still have a story to write in here. It's like, well, what the hell let's see that story. Yeah, it's gardening and potato making tips.
Like we could get a cookbook sequel.
the first part of the book, The Hobbit. Second part, Lord of the Rings. Third part,
Gardening with
Potatoes.
Sam.
Gardening.
potatoes.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
know. No, we
yeah,
would never get a sequel for many
no
reasons.
sequel. No.
We might get more
So,
prequels.
was there just
but-
peace in Middle Earth after that? There was no political uprisings or like disputes
Well,
or
I mean,
war?
there
or-
probably
It's
is, but
just
I'd say most of it's minor.
Yeah, I mean, because the elves are gone, the dwarves are kind of doing their own thing, and the hobbits are just not affiliated with much after that. They're
Yeah.
always kind of kept to themselves, so it's just between the race of men. But again, it's like kingdoms to where it wouldn't be so much if you like conflicts with each other. It's like within their own area.
still
But-
though. I mean,
They don't really have much to fight anymore.
each other.
But like, it ends though. We don't know if they do.
Lame.
They probably do.
Let me tell you how that fight would go. Right, the Rohirrim wouldn't be dumb enough to attack Gondor because they don't have like the abilities to siege. Gondor
Yeah.
wouldn't be stupid enough to try to siege the Rohirrim because out in the open fields they're just done.
Yeah, cavalry is kind of. That's one thing I'll say. In this movie, cavalry seems pretty overpowered.
I mean, with the amount of force that they have charging, it's
That-
fair. If they had the full force like he wanted, that would have been absurd.
That part of the reason I even asked that question is because Kit Harington just came out and said that they're doing a full-blown sequel series to Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
interested if they couldn't handle the end of the original show because they didn't have source material. What the hell is that show gonna be?
I don't know. You think he's gonna try to make his way back into what's the name of the world for that?
Winterfell?
No, like the whole world for Game of Thrones.
Westeros.
Yeah, you think they're gonna do that or gonna stick to him being beyond the wall?
Was he beyond the wall, or I thought he just went to being a watcher
That
of
was
the wall?
that was the stipulation for murdering Daenerys was that he had to go beyond the wall with the wildlings.
Okay, that's right. Yeah, I don't know. I'm definitely not
But-
going to watch the prequel series. I can tell you that much. Or maybe I will if I hear good things. But that show was so good and then fell apart so badly. It was crushing.
So we going to Return of the King now?
Well, I had a few more things I had for Two Towers. One, Hugo
Okay.
Weaving's forehead is fucking massive.
Dude, it is. It doesn't get any smaller.
You could
I
land
promise
an
you.
airplane on that thing.
Yeah, the Eagles could
Yeah.
perch on it, you know?
I did notice that I think it was the first time that they used it in the trilogy, and then they used it more in the third one, but the Wilhelm scream.
They used it in every single one.
See, I didn't hear it in the first one, or if it was there, I just didn't notice it.
And see, that takes me out. That's my one beef with these movies if they use that because it pulls me out.
Because it's such a
so
movie
much
thing.
from the movies.
Like it.
Yeah.
Like, and I understand that it's like an Easter egg, but like for that movie, it pulls me out of the immersion.
Gimli blowing into that horn.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not
That
gonna
was
lie.
awesome.
I don't know if it was the movie or just my body in general, but I had to poop really bad right after that, and I was like, "This fucker just hit the brown note." I had to pause the movie and go to the bathroom, and I was like, I don't know if it was the way he played that horn or what.
That vibration just really like
Yeah.
messes with your lower intestine. You know,
And then I wrote down after, because this is apparently, I'm gonna guess, during the siege of Isengard. I just wrote, I take back what I said about the trees.
Yeah.
And then this one was kind of boring, was what I wrote at the very end. I
But you're
said
wrong.
the last. See, the one thing is with the all three of them, the last like 30 minutes got pretty exciting and entertaining. Although the third one was pretty exciting the whole time. But this one just had. I feel like my biggest issue with this one, outside of the trees, was just this one had a lot of discourse and development for setting up the final movie.
Yeah, I can see that.
I mean, yeah,
And I don't know. Some of
it
it.
did. I mean, but that's also it's doing it. That's what we need. That.
So my dad hates these movies. He says everyone is just constantly monologuing, and he's not completely wrong in that they do kind of just fucking monologue to each other.
anyone monologue besides Smeagol?
I think they all
Technically,
kind of talk in long, drawn out sentences.
Well, no,
but isn't a monologue directly to
monologuing is
yourself?
like talking to yourself or like
No,
talking to
a
the
monologue,
audience.
yeah, it's well, a monologue is just having a long piece of like dialogue. So like when you audition for something, you're doing a monologue, which is just like a long speech basically that one character is giving, no back and forth. And a lot of these characters,
Boy, would he hate
a
the
lot of these
books.
characters just literally keep talking and don't shut the fuck up and let someone else say something until they've said like 10 sentences plus. Like they all just have a story to tell every time they talk. And it's like, just have like some
Yeah.
actual conversations. Like, who talks like this?
Speaking of conversations, talk about like imagine you were in Helm's Deep and like you're really nervous, right? Like you've never been a man of war, but you're suiting up. Two people just start talking in Elvish, and you're like, oh, wonder what they're talking about. And then the one
I
just yells, he's like, then I'll die as one of them. And you're like,
Wait,
Excuse me.
like,
What?
can we
what?
rewind? Can we talk in English for a minute here?
He's like, you're in America. We speak American.
That's so funny. Also, Legolas and Gimli just counting in
Oh,
the
yeah.
battle. You're an orc
I-
and you just hear people counting. You're like, what's going on over there?
I myself am sitting on the cup 43. Hey, Gimli knows about a nervous system, by the way.
Yeah, he's like, my
'Cause,
axe is in his
he's like-
nervous
he was
system.
like, oh, he was moving. It's like, I'm on 17. Like, excuse
Yeah, also that is kind of bullshit for Legolas to try and pull that shit. And try and
That's
claim
true.
that
Yeah.
one,
Yeah,
But
even
you're
though
right.
Gimli is already
We-
sitting on him as a victor of that enemy.
but I love it because we see them like elves and dwarves hating each other to Gimli and Legolas becoming like the best of friends to where Legolas would literally die protecting Gimli because we see that with the Rohirrim.
I did really like the scene where I think it was in the third one, but Gimli's like getting drunk off his ass or like playing the drinking game, and then Legolas he just starts drinking the beer, and then he's like, I feel a tingle in my fingers. I think it's affecting me.
Yeah.
It's like, damn.
And Gimli's just
Yeah.
drunk as shit at the table, falling over.
Also, what did you think of the skateboard scene down the stairs
What?
on the shield? I guess not skateboard, sledding
I
in Helm's
Like-
Deep with Legolas.
He rides the slide down the stairs, just like, pew, pew.
don't know, maybe I wasn't looking at the TV for that. I don't remember that.
That's like that's one of the trick shots in the movie. What do
Yeah,
you
he
mean?
basically grabs a shield, throws it down the stairs, jumps on it, and just starts shooting arrows while going down the
Maybe
stairs.
I did say, I
No.
mean, it's just like some of those scenes did kind of just blend together into. It's just I don't
Yeah.
know. Like I said, those battle scenes got a little uninteresting for me. And I think a lot of
Really?
it has to do with how good Battle of the Bastards really was. It changed how I viewed that type of like fighting, the like sword combat in movies and TV, cuz I've never been a huge fan of it, but that I was like, okay, you can actually make it cool and like engaging and stand out, like certain moments stand out versus these battles that kind of just felt like, I don't know.
I would like to say, for Helm's Deep, we see that one human turn around. He's like missing his eye, like just like
Oh,
an eye
yeah.
socket. That guy, he was wearing like a patch over it at the time when they were filming, and it came off. And he was like so uncomfortable without it, like he'd never worn it. He didn't like how it looked. And Peter Jackson was like, would you please like think about taking it off for the movie because like, it looks amazing? And the guy like just doesn't wear an eye patch anymore. Like he got okay with it
Okay,
because of
so
that movie, and like everybody who was an extra in that movie got a shirt that said like "I survived Helm's Deep" because it took so long to shoot that
so
scene.
I really appreciate that guy being willing to not wear the eye patch for that scene. Put the fucker back on when you're not doing a battle scene. I don't need to see that. Put a fake eye in there like it's Pirates of the Caribbean. I don't care. I don't need to see just an open exposed socket.
Oh, nice.
So
Anyway,
I did want to continue on that sledding scene. I think I've heard Tolkien doesn't like that scene.
Was he alive for the
what do you mean?
movies?
Tolkien's dead.
Maybe it was his son. I'm not
estate,
sure, but
Christopher probably didn't like it. He's not a huge. None of them were really big fans of the movies, but they have huge followings.
yeah.
All right. Anything else you guys wanted to touch on with the Two Towers?
I'm good. I'll leave that up to Sam. I don't know if he's done quite yet.
No,
Helm's Deep.
I think I'm good.
All right, and now we're on to the good one. Return of the King.
We're going back to Fellowship.
Funny, I don't know if you guys saw that image I sent you guys. I was flipping through Facebook earlier, and there was someone had posted in the A24 group. They were like the name of the last thing you watched is now the name of your sex life. Return of the King.
Yeah.
I just thought that was kind of funny.
Oh man. The second one.
The Two Towers.
The Two Towers.
I was gonna bring up. Well, I was gonna try to make like a pun on the Fellowship of the Ring.
Oh my god.
Like all of those, you can turn them into something. But
yeah, I'm still trying to understand why I had a Return of the King poster as a kid. I mean, I know I watched it and I probably was just like, yeah, this is good, but I don't know if I actually really liked it at the time. I had Return of the King right next to a Crimson Chin poster on my wall.
I didn't know they made posters
Yeah,
of Crimson Chin.
So it was like a comic strip of the Crimson Chin, and then of course it said
You should have had
it said like
Chin.
Fairly Odd Parents in the corner, but yeah, it was just those were the two posters I had on my wall, and I don't know why. I think I just got them at Walmart when I was moving. I don't know, but so I had that, and I played the hell out of that PS2 adaptation of the movie. That game was awesome. Is that?
I have the Game Boy.
Is that so? I know that back then when they would do that, sometimes they were different games depending on what system it was on. Like,
yeah.
So I don't know if that one's the same as the PS2 one.
Oh, if the PS2 one is all like the Game Boy, I had all of them. Not at all. I mean,
yeah, I feel like it's probably a bit. There were some of those movie adaptation games where they had like 3 different developers working on like different system versions.
The Two Towers game released before Two Towers the movie.
Oh, did it? I feel like it.
And Return of the King starts at like the Battle of Helm's Deep when Gandalf rides in on the GameCube at least, because you start as like Gandalf in the field after the charge down the hill.
See, I don't remember where the PS2 one started.
It ends at Helm's Deep, and you're like guarding the hole in the wall. But the Return of the King game, like I swear, it started like right after Gandalf charges down the field at the.
I just remember the Return of the King being one of the first games. I think it was the first one I ever beat was Super Mario 64. And then a lot of the games, I would play a lot of video games, but I would never like finish them all the way to the end. Return of the King was like the second video game I ever did that with. And I remember I got stuck on the boss battle with Gollum at the very end. And I'm sitting there at school in art class, and I'm sitting there just thinking about how I've been stuck on this for like 2 days, and then I just like brain blast. All of a sudden, like I was like, wait, I think I know how to beat him. And I went home and I beat it within like 10 minutes of turning it back on. And I was like,
You, I got stuck at the Battle of Minas Tirith. I could never figure out where to go as Gandalf because I was like a child. I didn't understand how mechanics like games work. I just killed things. But Shelob's boss battle was horrendous for me. I could not.
The spider, right?
Struggled with it.
Yeah, the spider part. So the spiders always fuck me up. I'm not a big fan of spiders in any sense of the word.
No,
so that scene in the movie and in the game, and then the Chamber of Secrets, those all messed me up.
I never played Chamber of Secrets game.
I did, but I never got to that point. I just mean in the movies. In the movie when they're in the Forbidden Forest and like all the spiders are coming down at them.
That doesn't bother me in movies, but in games, I'm so scared with games like all the time. Like even now to this day, games scare the shit out of me so easily. But we got like 40 minutes before Sam has to leave us.
So I wrote down, I think it'd be funny if Grima pushes Sour Man. I wrote down Sour Man because he is pretty sour at this point. If he pushed Sour Man off the tower, and then in parentheses I just wrote, "Oh shit." He literally done it like right after I wrote that.
So, did you ever hear the story about like Christopher Lee in that scene, like talking to Peter Jackson? So Christopher Lee, like if you don't know any of his story, he's a badass. Like,
I know he used to play Dracula, and then he was Count Dookie.
Dude, I mean, he used to like hunt Nazis down after World War II. He was like special ops in the British Army. Or look him up. He also did like heavy metal like orchestra kind of stuff. He has albums that he released, or like at least one. Look him up. He's a badass. But the thing is, where he was in the military, they were saying that like whenever he got stabbed, Peter Jackson was like, "You need to scream," and he was like, "Oh, Peter," he's like, "Do you know what it actually sounds like when a man is stabbed?"
Oh, I think I've heard this.
He was like, he was like, "It's the breath escaping the body." He's like, "It's a gasp." But he's like, "It's not a yell." And so Peter was like, I just kind of let him do his own thing on that. He was like, he knows more than I do. And he was like, I think I scared Peter a little bit. But no, Christopher Lee, literal badass in real life. Like, look up his story and like all the things he's done. He's amazing.
I just knew that he used to be like in all the monster movies, and then he played Count Dookie.
Man. He was also related to like the guy who like was originally played like James Bond or something. He's crazy. R.I.P.
Yeah, didn't he just die like a couple years ago?
It hasn't been too long, but he got to play in The Hobbit, which was cool. He got to reprise Saruman in The Hobbit.
See, and that's another thing I was thinking about.
Oh! He's the only cast member to actually meet Tolkien in real life.
Oh, he was pretty old.
And he read the books once every year.
I was thinking about that, though, when I was watching these, and I was like, well, I know that Ian is back as Gandalf in The Hobbit. He plays Gandalf again in the Hobbit. But I was like thinking, I don't remember. He's obviously got to look older in The Hobbit, even though it's supposed to be before Lord of the Rings. It's kind of like the Better Call Saul versus Breaking Bad thing. Like if you look at Mike in Better Call Saul, he looks older than he does in Breaking Bad. And so I don't know. I imagine that would be the same thing with Christopher Lee in The Hobbit. He probably looks like Skeletor or the Crypt Keeper.
I mean, he wasn't doing too well, but he doesn't look horrible. I mean, we were able to like de-age him a little bit, probably. But also, I will say like the one thing is that they all played old men anyway at that point, so they didn't have to do too much.
Yeah.
But yeah, badass.
Why does Gandalf sleep with his eyes open?
Because Pippin is a fool of a took.
His eyes are wide open and he's snoring.
Yeah.
I think
that's how Sam should have slept around Gollum. Let's be honest. But No, I don't know. He's a wizard. I don't know,
I
man.
don't know. I think it's just like shock factor or something like
Yeah,
And
that.
then and
Part
then
of the
why
movie.
did Pippin want to stare into the orb? Like he was
because he's a dumbass.
Or he got influenced by
well,
Sauron,
but then
maybe.
Mary's like, you always have to look. Why do you always have to look? What is he? What was the incidents before this where he had to look at something?
He's just mischievous or
He's
mischievous.
a very curious fellow.
Yeah.
Well, cure.
Oh, that scene where they actually get split up, that hurts me every time.
That was pretty sad.
Man, riding away on Shadowfax.
Oh, I also wrote down another really cool Lord of the Rings game is Shadow of Mordor.
Oh, love.
I haven't played the second one, but
Wait, do I have it?
the first one was really
I have a
cool.
bottle opener. That's the hammer.
Sam, did you ever play that game?
I played a little bit.
That
of Shadow
game
of
was-
Mordor, yeah.
That
It
game
was
was really
pretty fun.
cool because it introduced like the Nemesis system. I think a lot of other games use now where like, or I've seen other guys. I wouldn't say a lot of, but other games
Oh!
have used them. Where
Yeah.
they who was that?
That was my grandfather.
He just
scared the
tried to
shit out of me.
assassinate you live on stream.
Yeah, he did.
But yeah, the nemesis system where like you kill an enemy or they kill you, and if they kill you, they grow stronger and then they remember you next time or whatever. And shit was
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Another great Lord of the Rings game is Conquest. That was like my favorite.
Isn't that
as a
like more
kid.
of like a strategy game?
Well, it was like Star Wars Battlefront is Lord of the
Okay.
Rings, and it's amazing to this day. It was like one of the first games when I got like a PS3. I bought it, fell in love with it. So fun.
So probably the coolest part of all three of these movies for me is the Ghost Army.
Oh, the
That shit
yeah.
is so badass.
So, man.
Yeah. When the Minas Tirith they just swarm
Yeah.
over everything.
So originally they only destroyed the Corsair ships, and then the Battle of Minas Tirith was just fought by men. Gimli was the only rational one to where he's like let's keep him around for like another day, just destroy Mordor, and then you can leave. Like, what's another day in the span of like you've been cursed
Right.
for years?
I did like that.
I don't know. It wouldn't have been honorable though. So, and that was like a main thing of Aragorn's
I-
character.
Well, like I think he could have talked to him like, "Would you mind?" Like, just like you guys travel at light
That-
speed, you can't die. Would you mind wiping out the enemy? And then I promise
That
I'll
dude
let you
didn't
go.
seem-
If not, then I'll do
That
it now
dude
anyway.
didn't seem like the most reasonable sort. Like he probably just would have been like, "No."
Oh, well, then Aragorn would have been like, "I understand, thank you," and you like, your oath has been
He'd been like,
fulfilled.
"Fuck you, bitch! I tell you when you can go."
But that's what Isildur basically
Um,
did.
Yeah, I liked when they're the pirates on the ship are like, "You and what army?" And then he's like, "This army," and just ghosts.
Also,
Dude, so,
that's
like,
only extended. Also,
Oh, really?
yeah.
they don't
yeah.
they don't actually show them taking over the
They
ships.
just show the
They
ships
just
pulling up
show
later.
the ghosts.
Also, there the scene where you see all the skulls rolling out extended, and that was miniatures, too, which is so cool to watch.
Mhm.
Hated that boss fight in Return of the King 2.
So I don't understand the whole Denethorn hating Faramir, and then the second he thinks Faramir is dead, he's like, "Oh, my son!"
So, from my experience, when people act like that, like I have on-hand knowledge, or like first-hand knowledge of this, I think Denethor was just an alcoholic.
Okay, you got go on.
No, don't argue with me. I know somebody who does this exact same stuff and like doesn't give a shit. But then the second something like that, like a dire situation comes up where you think somebody died, and then they start caring, alcoholic. That's all it
Okay.
is.
But he was just. I didn't really see him drink as much as just shove food in his mouth and get more of it on his face than in his mouth.
the tomato
Yeah.
scene.
The tomato.
Yeah. No, trust me, Devin. We don't know what goes on behind the scenes.
And then he's like, and then he's trying to burn both himself and Faramir alive.
Farmer, yeah.
Oh yeah, he's crazy.
Yeah, I thought at that point it was
Well,
more of he just snapped mentally than being an alcoholic, but
Well, both same thing. No, I'm fucking. But like, yeah, no, he was just a crazy father.
His entire relationship with Faramir.
that was very
fucked.
much.
Yeah, it was just like
I mean,
he was
just...
never worthy, and then the second that he loses his son, he just loses it because he's like, I don't even have the shitty one now. Because he literally admits that he was like he would rather have had him die than Boromir. And I think a big thing with that is that Faramir even was like, I'll go in place of Boromir, and he was like, well, no, and then Boromir died, so it's like I sent my own son to his death.
Yeah, and also in the extended, I guess it's not in the extended really, but you get the scene where Faramir basically lets the ring go.
Yeah.
So it kind of shows that he's maybe a little more headstrong than Boromir, but
yes, I think that thing is, it's like they both tried to please their father. Boromir, I think, had a different kind of pressure of being the favorite. And Faramir had always just been hated, so he was like, what's another thing to piss off his dad, you know?
Yeah. Also, the scene where Denethor is talking to Faramir, right? And then you just see like a vision of Boromir behind him. That...
It gets you. It really does.
Yeah.
Not me.
Devin! Devin! But
and then there's so the one dude, the ring wraith that shows up in the battles later. He's like riding the
Witch King of Angmar.
Yeah.
It's the Fell Beast.
So he's riding one of those, and then what's her name like chops the thing's head off and then fights him, and she stabs him in the face, killing him. I love how he makes like a deflating balloon sound. And she first stabs him.
Yeah.
He's just like the of like air coming out, and then he crumbles
like
up.
A pinhole in a balloon.
And
you're like, well, there's a leak somewhere, but I don't know where it's at. So then you throw water on it to see the air bubbles.
And then he like starts deflating. I was like, oh, they did that on purpose.
So what I was bringing up earlier is in the book, and they don't the substitution were the daggers that they got from Galadriel. In the Fellowship, they go to the Dunbar, like the Dunharrows or Dunbarrow, like when Bombadil saves them, and they get these swords that were like specifically ruined to fight, and they were from the Dunedain Rangers. I think they were outposted there, specifically ruined to fight, like the ring race and everything. And upon doing that, whenever Merry stabs the Witch King in the knee, it like breaks his connection to like Minas Morgul and Earth, and that's when Eowyn's able to stab him and kill him.
And this was in the movie or in the book?
It basically made him mortal. So it's in both. The explanation of how it was possible is in the book, but they get like these special daggers from Galadriel in the movie, and that would be like the closest representation of how, like, of the purpose of Merry stabbing him is the reason that he was able to be killed.
Yeah. I think a lot of people have gripes with that scene because they misunderstand it. They're like, no, Matt can kill me. And she's just like,
I thought that's why.
No, Matt.
So it's just like, a woman power.
No,
no,
but it's still a badass scene. Like people talk, like we get into that. They're like, well, women don't have like enough. Like, no, first off, you just haven't watched Lord of the Rings. Eowyn is a badass.
Well, she was.
You know. But I will say, because even Tolkien himself, I think he had stepped up and was like, Eowyn would never have been able to kill him. Like, well, she's the one who did land the fatal blow, because they're like at Weathertop, they all had those swords as is. So if they had struck them, they would have been damaged, but they wouldn't have died. So Eowyn did kill the Witch King. So they're like, don't ever try to discredit her with that. She killed him.
Yeah, and also, I mean, she did a pretty good job killing that fell beast too.
Oh, she chopped off his head. What, 2 blows?
Yeah.
Yeah. We were like, also, there was a thing in the books it talks about to where it was saying that like she wore the same armor as the men, but like they had described it like on her that it was like this kind of sexual armor that like it was like a G string on the bottom. They're like, but it was the same armor, so it blended in. And so they're talking about, they're like, not only did you hear like the hooves, but you could hear the clapping of the ass cheeks to like charge over the hill. So it was like all the men wore this armor too.
So, yeah, she does all that, and then she. I don't know. They didn't really show it. Did she like pass out or something?
It hurt her, and then yeah, right, because Mary passed out too, and Pippin found him.
Yeah, but she was talking to what's his name at one point, and he's like, "You saved me."
Theoden.
And then the next thing we see is her just on the ground, and Carl Urban's character like freaking out over her.
She was just hurt at least.
And then my question became shortly after that: when the fuck did they meet? Carl Urban's character and her, because then they're like they have like
they're brother and sister.
Carl Urban's character.
Yeah, because whenever he's like holding Wormtail up against like the post, and he's like, "What did Saruman promise you?" And he's like, "Was it all the riches?"
not. I'm mixing it up. Sorry. Faramir. When did they meet?
Yeah, Gondor, right?
Yeah.
And then he's like, finally.
There was one scene where she's just kind of looking out of the castle in like some kind of view, and he kind of walks up behind her, and they.
Because I did not remember them being in the same room together before all of a sudden they're like all over each other after that battle.
Well, like he walks up to her and he's like, finally a chance for Faramir to show his quality.
I was just like, when did this happen? What is happening? How did this happen so fast?
Where did my hammer go? What you laughing at, Sam?
Nothing.
Yeah. Man, I just lost my hammer.
Oh, and also speaking of people dressing up in armor, when Frodo and Sam put on the orc armor, they look like kids cosplaying as orcs.
Yeah. Like they didn't have like a Gimli moment where he's like, "Oh, it's a little tight around the waist," or what?
And then their plan for hiding was just kind of sit on the side of the road and hope they don't look to the left.
Yeah.
Oh,
wouldn't all
that's what I was thinking when they were in the middle. Like, wouldn't they just kind of? There'd be.
My only thing for that I would have to say is maybe the armor like being used prior to that would have a scent. But I don't. Yeah. I actually don't have an explanation for that. So.
Yep.
What?
Also,
their whole trek across Mordor with all those orcs is not in the theatrical.
Yeah, I was gonna say like when you see him whipping them, that's all.
Oh,
extended.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
They did that.
But that makes me happy because in Conquest, like the fat orc whipping them, he was the mage like designed for Lord of the Rings Conquest, and I didn't know why until I watched the extended. You want to reply to your buddy, Devin?
Yeah, my mind has changed a little bit. I guess a lot, but I'm not gonna say I'm as into these movies as they are, but I did enjoy them. I mean,
Sam is literally
Sam. Yeah, I thought they did a really good job of getting out of that situation. Though he's just like, Sam, hit me, and they kind of just like caused chaos and then slipped out when all the orcs were distracted.
Well, in the extended
there's
version,
one of those.
Sam just starts slamming his head off the desk, and then punching himself, and he's like, "No, please stop, Frodo." And he's just wailing on himself until he gets Frodo fired.
And then he
doesn't get him fired. He gets
like a cart full of orc weapons and armor and just orc supplies. Yep. So the guy at Blackgate who comes out and like starts talking with Aragorn and like basically
the mouth of Sauron.
Yeah, the mouth of Sauron. Oh, that's why his fucking mouth was so big.
So originally they had tested the idea of turning his mouth
His
sideways.
mouth was distractingly large,
Chapped.
but
Yeah.
Lips are
but he
chapped.
looked, I think he was my favorite character in terms of looks of the whole trilogy. Like his helmet was really
Mhm.
badass, and the way his mouth moved and the way he
Yeah.
sounded,
Yeah.
he was just like really awesome looking.
Yeah.
Easy to
Yes,
Really.
kill.
very easy to kill. That armor didn't do
Like
anything for
super
him.
easy. No, that was another thing. Like in Conquest, like, did you ever play Star
Yeah.
Wars Battlefront? You know how you got like the option to play heroes like throughout the story
Yeah.
missions? It would pop up. That was another person to where like you were playing the enemy side at the Battle of the Black Gate, and it was just the mouth of Sauron. And I was like, I had no idea who it was. And again, it was another thing they added in from the extended version. So if you never watched
Oh,
it,
he
you have
wasn't
no
at
idea.
all in the theatrical?
No, he
No.
is my favorite part of the extended Return of the King because I
Yeah, that
love
was.
that.
I'm surprised because that seemed like a pretty important moment too.
Yeah, because he holds up the mithril and he's
Yeah.
like you think the mission's doomed, and that they're still
Yeah.
like for Frodo.
And then.
Oh. And then at the
No, sorry, go on.
well, I'll let you say what you're gonna say first because I don't know if
Well,
we're there yet.
I was gonna say I don't understand how they're climbing up the side of Mount Doom, and Sauron's looking around, and then he looks at them, and Sam drops, and Frodo just stands there. I get he's like being affected by the ring or whatever, but he stands there for like almost a minute, it seems like, and then he drops finally, and then Sauron's like, "Oh, maybe it was nothing," and just keeps looking around. Like, how did he not? If he's like supposed to be this
They're like three
super
eighths.
powerful, like you, but it's on the side of a mountain that nothing should really be on, right? Why didn't he
Or
send something
Yeah.
to go look at that like right away? You see,
they're
any
all fighting.
movement just
Yeah. I'll give you that. Yeah.
Yeah,
There's
no,
really
I
no
have to agree.
good
Like obviously,
explanation.
I'll fuck around and like come up with excuses, but yeah.
like that one just seemed
Um,
yeah.
one thing that they don't ever really talk about in the movie is like Sauron isn't just the eye. Like he is like kind of recuperating inside the tower. He isn't just the eye. Like he's actually kind of like trying to rebuild up to get the ring till he's in a physical form esque. Because that scene where Aragorn's fighting the troll, you look at the deleted scenes, they were originally going to have Sauron come down and fight him. But they didn't want that idea because they were like, well, they didn't ever want to like kind of really reveal him. They wanted him just to be as intimidating as he is, just from like never seeing him, like building
Yeah,
him up. But the choreography for that fight scene is the exact same. They just added in a troll for it. They didn't
I
change it at
thought
all.
there, because from what I remembered as a kid, I thought there was at some point a scene where Sauron would show his like physical form with the helmet and stuff, but it was only at the beginning of Fellowship that he showed up in like that form,
Yeah,
and I was
Yeah.
a little
he's too
disappointed by
OP.
that, but well, and then
Yeah, he was never at his
at,
full power, but he was never just the eye, which is like a really big
honestly, I
misconception.
thought he was the tower. I mean, the way the tower fell after the ring was destroyed, I assumed the dude was the tower.
Yeah.
Because the tower just all of a sudden is no longer structurally sound the second the ring is destroyed.
Well, you know what they say. I can't
What
say
do they
it.
say?
I can't.
Continue.
I actually can't say it. There were explosions near the base of the tower.
All right, so yeah, I touched on it earlier though. I did really like how the whole Gollum thing, like he was a nuisance the whole time, and he was really annoying, the fact that they didn't like just tie him up or whatever. But I did like that even though he showed up as a huge oppositional force there at Mount Doom, he was the reason the ring went into the fire at the end there. And Gandalf kind of saw that one coming to a degree, even though no one else really had a second thought about Gollum other than he's just, a creepy little ring crackhead.
Yep.
So I thought that was really cool. I honestly, by the time it was over, I was like, Gollum was probably one of the more complex, if not the most complex character of the whole series.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I do agree with that. He had way more like inner struggle than any other character. I would say the second would probably be Frodo, just because he was the only other one really affected
Right.
by the ring.
Well, and then
Boromir with the extended would be the third.
the ending
Yeah.
with him with the whole PTSD thing, like I like that a lot, and that was like the real cherry on top for showing just how much the whole journey affected him. That like they went back. I love when they go back to the Shire and like it's like the Shire's bit. Oh no, you know what? Before I get to that point, there's the part where Aragorn.
First off, this isn't like the Christopher Paolini books. Aragorn.
Oh, yeah, I said Aragon, not the dragon. Um,
Amazing books, but we're
but
not talking
when
about
he
those
gets
right now.
crowned, and then everybody's kind of celebrating, and then he walks up to Frodo, Sam, Pippin, and Merry, and they bow, and then he's like, "My friends, you bow to no one," and everybody bows to them. Okay, goosebumps. I did that one. Kind of hit me. I was like, "Holy shit,
does.
Such a great
that
scene.
is awesome."
But do you realize how low people had to get to be below them? And then the one thing that always gets me are people are like, from Frodo's perspective, like they had no idea that he walked away from the pit,
Right.
like, to take the ring.
Well, and that's why I think his character's so complex by the end of it, is that yeah, he did basically fail his mission, and now he's gonna have to live with that for the rest of it. Even though nobody else knows except for Sam, he does have to kind of grapple with the fact that he failed, and it's only because of happenstance and the way the cards fell that the ring actually made it into the fire. And so I did like that, like he could not, while the rest of them could kind of go back to life in the Shire, and Sam was able to like start a family and everything. They didn't really show what happened with Pippin and Merry, aside from, they just were there. But I did like that Frodo just didn't seem to fit back into the picture all that well, and then he had the thing was still hurting him, the stab from the and then basically he was just like, I need to go on this journey to kind of move on from all of this. So I did, even though I didn't get it at first, I was like, why the fuck is he just leaving his boys like that? Then I saw what people were saying about it online and explaining it, and I'm like, oh, that's actually really, really cool. I like that a lot. So even though I didn't like Frodo as a character for most of it, I will say he was definitely one of the more complex characters.
Yeah.
And I don't think people would have held it against him, because it was the one
Right.
ring, and not like he would have happened to anybody, because even Gandalf was like, he was like, I would take the ring with good intentions, but whatever happens after that, he's like, I just can't.
Yeah, I love seeing. I've seen some like artwork of what Gandalf would be.
Yeah,
Use the One Ring. It's so fucking bad.
Like one is like what his staff looks like, the eye of Sauron.
Yep.
Or something.
And there's one where he has like a flaming sword and he's shrouded in dark.
Did you ever see the one of the, like, if an Ent had gotten a hold of the One Ring?
The who?
Like if an Ent had gotten a hold of the One Ring, they did like art with that, and they did like a little poem below it, because like Treebeard was obsessed with like poetry and stuff. Really cool. You should look it up.
Yeah.
Also, Devin, did you know that John Rhys Davies, who did Gimli, voiced Treebeard?
Oh, did he really?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so that's one thing I did not like about, like, my buddy Josh, shout out to Josh, he, his favorite character was Gimli, if I'm not mistaken, and,
Gimli is a great character.
I guess, he's more just, like,
he's
more just the butt of every joke. Like, most of the jokes in the movies, it felt like, were from him, and he never really got to have, like, a whole lot of serious moments. Even his most serious moments had some jokes in them. Like he was mainly just the
Well,
comic relief.
there was the Mines of Moria. That was probably
Yeah,
his most
but
serious
Fallen,
moment.
like the Tomb
but
of
other
yeah.
than that, he was just like
Yeah.
the comic relief character, and I've seen like a lot of people that are really hardcore into the books complain about that. Like,
Yeah, I think one thing I want to say is with the Mines of Moria, Gandalf knew
Yeah,
like what had happened there, and he just kind of went in there without telling Gimli anything.
it wasn't his choice, man. It was the ring bearers though.
Could have at least warned Gimli though, like, hey, your whole family is dead. They died like years ago.
Fair
well,
enough.
did he really? He didn't even know how to get into that shit.
I wonder about that scene. Was he bullshitting or no?
Because it seemed so
Because
simple.
I feel like it was like a half-ass attempt trying to get in, like because he didn't want to.
You know what? That makes sense. Yeah, he's just like kind of plays it off like, well, damn, now we gotta go the other way, and then Frodo's just like, dude, just say it in Elvish.
Like, he's like, oh, never thought about that.
That's like actually one of the most simple.
Yeah, I got it.
riddles
I got
I've
it. Like
ever
just
seen.
the
So,
watching,
yeah.
I'm like, wait, don't you just say the word in Elvish then? Like
That's why I think that it was like Gandalf trying to avoid getting in.
that makes a lot of sense though. So I could totally see that.
Because I don't remember that part from the book.
Was that in
at all.
that theatrical version, or was that also in the?
Yeah,
Okay.
No, that was in the theatrical. Yeah.
that's a big point. Oh, Bill the pony, real hero.
Oh, the one that they let go at the entrance.
Yeah, Bill.
I bet you he died like 5 minutes after that.
We don't talk about that. We don't talk about that.
Also, speaking of horses, I'm pretty sure the horse that picked Aragorn up at the river was the one that he let go earlier.
Was it? I wasn't sure if it was that
I'm
horse or
pretty
like
sure it's
just
that
the
one.
one. That
That's
he rode.
another.
It might have. It might
That's
have been the
another
one that he
scene where
rode,
the special effects were fucking god awful. Was when Aragorn goes over the edge of that cliff. He gets like dragged by whatever the hell that thing is, and he just goes over the cliff. That thing looks so
2001,
fake.
Devin.
Well, that's my question though, because I know that sometimes they like remaster movies like that. Like I guess the best example would be like the Star Wars movies. They change some of the stuff in it. Would they ever consider doing like that with Lord of the Rings and upgrading the?
I don't think there's a
Okay.
demand. Because I feel like George Lucas was the big part of driving force behind like remasters of Star Wars and whatnot. I don't think Peter Jackson would touch that. I would like to see him do it with The Hobbit and try to make it last a little bit longer, like make it look better. Lord of the Rings has already held up so well that like even going back like in another 20 years, you could live with like those shots because you're like, well, now it's 40 years old, but even the ones now that are practical,
Well, do you
still look
think-
amazing?
So
Yeah.
maybe that's the job that Amazon is going to do here with this Amazon series.
I will say Amazon said that all of their orcs are practical, and that made me so excited.
Yeah. So Amazon has a great track record with their current shows. So I think they'll probably do a pretty good job with it.
My biggest concern is that they butchered time of Wheel of Time.
Oh, Wheel of Time. Yeah.
That
I've
was like
heard some
because that's the
things like-
closest representation of like a kind of
Yeah.
like a sci-fi fantasy, or not sci-fi, but just fantasy. I'm scared, but I'm not forming opinions on it until I see it.
Yeah, I haven't read or watched Wheel of Time. It's on my read list, but I've heard they've gone a little bit off track
Yeah.
from the story.
I know like one of my coworkers is like diehard fan of those books and everything. Hated the show.
What?
So I'm a little bit concerned, but I know that they said like they aren't allowed to touch any of the source material that has already been established by movies. So for the most part, like Lord of the Rings and Hobbit aren't really going to get fucked around with.
So is it taking place?
Oh, wait. That'd be cool. Is the Amazon series gonna have The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings?
No, it's before because Galadriel's like super young in it. I guess in comparison to Lord of the Rings, it's gonna be like a prequel to like It's supposed to take place during like the second
So is it
age.
in the world of the movies then? Because I
I mean,
saw.
yeah, because it's
Technically,
all in
yeah.
Well,
Middle
but I
Earth.
didn't know if they were just doing their own thing and they were gonna like redo like the 1970 cartoon Hobbit isn't tied to those so I was just wondering if they
No,
were just going to redo the stories in their own way now, or if they're so it is going to
no.
be kind of canon with the movies or whatever.
It's supposed to be because like their agreement with the Tolkien, whoever owns like the rights to Tolkien, which is still his family, they aren't touching anything that has already been established in the movies. So it's going to be a prequel, like I said, I think during the Second Age, but they're not going to like truly like mess with the main storyline of
Because I
Lord
had
of the
seen
Rings.
that what was it, Evangeline Lilly, who played one of the yeah in the
Tariel.
Hobbit movies, she might be returning for the Lord of the Rings series. So
Hobbit might be fair game.
so so
I
I
don't
mean, it
know.
would make sense if it just takes place before. They could have actors from the movies come back and reprise roles.
But like ones that who've been alive long
Yeah.
enough, like Elrond could be in it, but I doubt
Yeah.
Hugo would Weaving would come back for that. To be honest.
Plus, he'd look pretty old. Well, I guess they could de-age him, but
Weirdly enough, though, Hugo Weaving was the only voice actor to come back and voice his character for Lord of the Rings Conquest.
All right. Do we have any final thoughts on the series in general?
Amazing.
Yep.
Perfect.
Amazing.
Like
Great series.
I would not change a thing about it.
I'd have to give it a rewatch. I mean, I think it's gonna be one of those things that I'm gonna learn to appreciate the more and more I watch it. Um, but I definitely I'm no longer a hater of the Lord of the Rings. When people
I'm
bring it
glad.
up, I won't be like, "Oh, Lord of the Rings is ass, bro." I actually can appreciate them for what they are, and I think what I see them as is a fantasy world that anybody can get into, young or old, because it doesn't go
Yeah.
like it doesn't go so brutally with the violence and stuff that you can watch it with your kids. They might not
Well, and
understand
it
all
doesn't
of it,
cuss ever.
but yeah, and there's stuff that makes it more now the content itself I don't think would be entertaining to a kid nearly as much, but it is a fantasy epic that you can really appreciate at any age to some degree, I guess. And I think it also the morals that it teaches with like the anybody can be a hero. I think that's pretty cool. So
Yeah. That was like one of the main points. Like I think for sure Gandalf was like anyone, no matter how small,
ah,
can make a change. Because like it's
Yeah.
one of like the
so
hobbits.
I
They're
do
small.
appreciate that. So I would give Fellowship of the Rings. I'd give probably like a 7 out of 10, maybe an 8. Two Towers, I'd give probably like a 6 or a 7, and then Return of the King is like an 8 or a 9.
Almost perfect.
I can take that. It's
Yes,
better
I
than
can take an 8
Lord
or
of the
9
Rings
for Return of
sucks.
the King. Now, like 6 or 7 for Two Towers.
That is just a
We'll talk about that at Horror Hound.
dude. I'm
But
so hoping they bring Pablo. They gotta announce Pablo.
dude, I have an Army of Darkness comic I want to bring with me and see if I can get Bruce
They
Campbell
just
to sign
announced
it.
that Anthony Michael Hall's gonna be there. I think I sent you that.
Yeah.
Evil dies tonight.
Yeah, I've looked at all those. And then like some mental patient just killed himself. And then like, that's not Michael.
All right, well, I guess we'll go ahead and wrap it up so Sam can go sing his heart out, go sing some Hobbit
Yep.
ballads. But
Oh, can I say one more fact?
yeah,
So the line that Bilbo says at the Fellowship at his birthday when he's like, "I wish you all a very fond farewell." In the Battle of the Five Armies, there's a song written by Billy Boyd who plays Pippin, and it's called "The Last Goodbye." The last line of the song is him saying, "I wish you all a very fond farewell."
well, I
Nice
guess
little Easter egg.
on that note, to anybody watching, I'm Devin.
Sam.
And
Beck.
we wish you a very fond farewell.